2, 1, go. Powered by the Perdomo Cigar Studios on the Red Stage in Indian Trail, North Carolina, and broadcasting from the HF Barcelona Studios in Euless, Texas. Welcome to Primetime Special Edition number 70. Tonight, we return to Mount Rushmore and make our selections for which Rocky Patel premium cigars belong on the beloved monument. And we'll tackle the big elephant in the room, some coronavirus talk. And as always, the Primetime Show is sponsored by Perdomo Cigars. Awarded Nicaraguan Cigar of the Year in 2014 by Cigar Journal, the Perdomo 20th anniversary brand has consistently earned the highest scores in the industry and is a top seller around the world. The Perdomo 20th anniversary blend requires tobaccos that have been carefully hand selected and are well aged for a minimum of 8 years. The Perdomo 20th anniversary is offered in 3 distinct wrappers: a smooth, creamy Ecuadorian Connecticut, a rich, earthy Cuban seed Nicaraguan Sun-Grown, and a dark, oily Cuban seed Nicaraguan Maduro. Combining these beautifully bourbon barrel-aged wrappers with thick, high-priming binder and filler tobaccos gives each blend a balanced complexity with rich flavors and smooth, elegant aromas. Perdomo Cigars is a family-owned and operated company headquartered in Miami, Florida, with manufacturing and agricultural facilities in Esteli, Nicaragua. Perdomo's acclaimed cigar brands include the Perdomo Estate Selection Vintage, the Perdomo Double Aged 12-year Vintage, the Perdomo 20th Anniversary, Perdomo Reserve 10th Anniversary Champagne, Perdomo Habano Bourbon Barrel Aged, Perdomo Lot 23, and many more. For great tasting notes and pairing information, check out the new Perdomo website at www.perdomocigars.com. And by Aganorsa Leaf. Great Leaf makes great cigars. Aganorsa Leaf stands out because of the distinctive flavor of our Carajo 99 and Criollo 98 seeds cultivated by Cuban agronomists on the best lands of Jalapa and Esteli, Nicaragua. When you smoke one of our JFR Lunatic, Guardian of the Farm, and Casa Fernandez cigars, you will experience the unique taste and aroma that makes Aganorsa Leaf special. Smoke one today and enjoy the signature flavor of Aganorsa Leaf. And by Drew Estate. Check out and download the Drew Diplomat app for your mobile device. Keep up with everything going on Drew Estate. Experience the subculture that is the rebirth of cigars. Available on iTunes and Google Play. For more information, check out www.drewdiplomat.com. And as always, all the live streaming on the Primetime Show is sponsored exclusively by Drew Estate. Well, welcome everybody. This is Primetime Special Edition number 70 for this Tuesday, March 24th, 2020. This is Will Cooper. I'm on the Red Stage in the Perdomo Cigar Studios, joined cross country by my friend and colleague, Mr. Bear Duplessis.
Coop!
You
feel like we've
me.
done this before. Good evening.
Yeah, you scared me for a second. I like so for folks who don't know, if you're watching this live, you're obviously not watching this live on you're not watching this live on Facebook because something is going wrong with Zoom and Facebook. So we, after kind of triaging this a bit, we made the call to move this over to YouTube. And that's going to involve the one extra click that you're going to have to watch this show. And the best thing of all, Bear, is if you don't watch this show on Facebook, you don't have to get all the political rhetoric or all the coronavirus statistics. You can watch this on YouTube free of all that. I mean, maybe that's why our audience is not going to be as high tonight.
I mean, we'll try to be entertaining. I mean, we'll do our very best.
It's the same.
I think that's the goal.
It's the same show, but you don't have to deal with Mark Zuckerberg tonight because something went wrong with the integration. So I don't understand. I can. No one will convince me till the cows come home why people want this thing on Facebook except for the commenting. But you can comment. I left the comments open here tonight, and certainly you have the ability to comment. What happened? We're getting what happened from Developing Palates. Facebook and Facebook and Zoom mid-show just crapped out and we couldn't get back on. So this is actually a restart of the show.
Yeah, it's well, this is a first, but hey, you know what? These are unprecedented times, Coop. So you know what? We roll with it. We roll with the challenges, and we're gonna have fun tonight.
Right, exactly. And if you hear a little bit of bandwidth issues on each end, look, we're dealing with, like Bear said, challenging times. We'll get through the best we can. And I'm excited really to kind of deliver a show tonight because we have a bunch of great topics, and I'm just glad we didn't have a guest tonight. That's the most important thing, and I'm glad the baseball show didn't turn out to be tonight now.
Oh gosh, man.
because those would have just like broke my heart. Imagine if we had to start the baseball show at 10:40. I mean,
Well, I'd be calling into work the next day.
yeah,
That's
I mean, no, I'm actually being serious. So we obviously the baseball show's been deferred because the baseball season's been deferred right now.
yeah, it's one of those things that we decided to put off, obviously for obvious reasons, and
Yeah.
we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna roll with it. And I'm totally up for Aaron's suggestion. You know, he said winter doesn't end until baseball season starts, which means my beard has to keep going. So that'll be entertaining to see how
Yeah,
far.
there you go. There you go. That's the way it goes. That's the way we roll here. Yeah, but yeah, we had a couple. Yeah, we have to get some good bets going. But yeah, we'll have the baseball show at some point, I guess, right? But
Yeah,
it's gonna
of
suck without.
course.
I mean, without baseball, this is gonna be without sports. Um,
Well, the Tokyo Olympics just got postponed till 2021. This is weird.
yeah, yeah, and I think we'll hit all that in this. We'll hit that part in the second half for sure.
Yeah,
Where we'll really dive
jumping
into.
ahead.
Yeah, no, but it's hard not to jump ahead either. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I mean it, like you said, the elephant in the room. You know, it's something it's something that's, I mean, it's on everybody's mind. It's on the tip of everybody's tongue. You know,
Yeah,
it's right there. And what I find most interesting about this time is just the overall. There's a lot of, it's interesting. There's certainly the doom and gloom and there's the negativity and stuff, but there's a lot of positivity. There's a lot of sharing of local businesses and promoting, and promotion of each other's, competition and things like that. And it there's certainly, it's humanity takes over every now and then. It's kind of nice.
yeah, no, I agree as well. Although, except for the fights with the toilet paper, I saw it in Australia. I meant to talk to Dave about that.
Oh gosh, man, that's, yeah, I saw that video that you posted. Mr. Whipple would be disappointed.
Oh, Mr. Whipper's long.
Look,
I think my words were last night on the show, on the herf we did with Aaron, the 6-hour herf. Um, Mr. Whipple's rolling over in his grave right now.
yeah, but I've got a couple cigars here that I'm looking forward to actually lighting up. I don't know. You and I said last night we're trying to find some, just because of um, the ability to actually go out and get cigars and stuff. So I'm sure you dove into your humidor for some, and I actually picked up. I don't have any aged beauties, but I do have a couple of recent gems that I'm really excited about smoking tonight. So
Yes. So we're gonna be doing Rocky Patel Mount Rushmore. So what I want to do is let me do the sponsor intro for that, and we'll get right
absolutely.
into that. And I want to mention, our feature segment tonight is sponsored by Cigar Marketplace. Cigar Marketplace is the first B2B premium cigar and accessories online broker that connects premium suppliers to retailers, simplifying the way our cigar industry does business. Retailers can now directly order from the suppliers they want without wait, getting the customers the brands they demand. Wholesalers no longer need to depend on going store to store to find the retailer that fits their brand, allowing retailers to enjoy one-stop shopping experiences to all their store needs. An optional monthly subscription of $39.99 allows members to benefit from all order-free shipping, 40% off secondary air rates, a 2% cash back every 6 months, a refer a friend program, set discount of 10% off naked bundles, exclusive deals, and more. Non-members can take advantage of Cigar Marketplace's exclusive deals plus free shipping on orders over $750. Visit www.cigarmarketplace.co to learn more. And tonight's topic, we are going back to Mount Rushmore, as we said, um, and we'll be putting Rocky Patel cigars on Mount Rushmore. So, Bear, what did you actually dig into the humidor and get tonight?
Well, actually, this is my first time trying one of these cigars, and actually, I'm going to light it up first, man. I'm going to do it on a fresh palate. I have not had a cigar today, so this is the recently released, and recent I mean as of 2019, 2020, the number six.
Ah, okay. You went the very new number 6. Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't, like I said, I didn't do a deep dive into the humidor. I've got a few cigars that we'll talk about later that are aging for Rocky Patel. I didn't want to. They weren't at the right point. So I'm gonna be the stingy little aging nerd that I normally am, and I'm gonna hold off. I didn't pull anything out a little too early for me because I
Uh,
have them earmarked.
yeah. So to be honest, I wanted to pick a couple of my Mount Rushmore selections tonight. I didn't. I knew. When you have a cigar store 5 minutes from your house, the cigar shop's like 5 minutes from my house. I could just go there, right? But I've actually self quarantined, right? And I'm not a big believer in the curbside thing. It's if I'm not going. You know what I mean? So
They wouldn't deliver for you, Coop?
I don't know if I want that. I mean, that's how paranoid I am about this, right? I mean, this thing's touched by enough people. So I mean, but I have Rocky Patel cigars in my humidor. So I lit up the 20th Maduro, the Rocky Patel 20th Maduro. I mean,
Oh, nice.
I have some others I'm gonna light up. I may go old school with one a little later, but let me just not. So I have okay. I'll say what I have because I don't tease. I have a Super Ligero, right,
Oh.
which discontinued, discontinued.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I have a vintage San Andreas. I have a Hamlet 20th, 25th, 25th. Yeah, I have the Hamlet 25th, and I have another 20th Maduro.
I've got a couple more backups just depending on how long we go. Uh, I have the second ALR Robusto, age limited and rare, which
Yep, made the cigar
top
aficionado.
five.
Yeah,
Yeah, top five.
much to our
And then
cigar.
I've got, yeah, well, much to our ambush surprise, because it just came in under the wire as far as being able to qualify. And I've got the LB1 from this year, and then the Hamlet Liberation Robusto
Okay.
on standby.
Yeah, so I mean, I
So
think
it's a
yeah,
good Rocky Fest.
it's a good Rocky Fest. Yeah, but yeah. So what is this Mount Rushmore, right? Um, this is something that I've seen other people do. But it's something that I came up with. At least I thought I was the first one to come up with it. Back on Stogie Geeks, where we were looking at cigar Mount Rushmores, and we were looking at different scenarios. Who would you put on Mount Rushmore? What brands would you put on Mount Rushmore? What cigars would you put on Mount Rushmore? And the idea is you pick four, and you only can pick four. There's not a fifth slot on Mount Rushmore, and it becomes a intriguing exercise to do. And we did it a couple of times at Stogie Geeks. I know we did it once with Master Sensei. He was a guest, and he did it with us once. And but the idea is you could change it up a few times. So I've been wanting to bring Mount Rushmore to special edition. I was running some ideas by you, and I think it was you who came up with the idea, who said, "Hey, let's do this by brand, right? In terms
Mhm.
of pick a brand or a company, and we put four cigars on Mount Rushmore from that." And it was actually a very intriguing idea, I thought. And I think you've actually come up with the two companies so far we've done. The first one we did was Drew Estate, which was about 5 or 6 months ago. And now tonight, you came up with the idea of doing Rocky Patel, which I thought was a great idea to do.
Yeah, I was toying between several brands, and I thought, this is, Rocky's. I mean, as we're going to discuss tonight, Rocky's been, in the business for over 2 decades at this point, and so I mean, that's a lot of cigars, and so certainly there are some that qualify for his Mount Rushmore, um, which is interesting. Some of the picks we're going to unveil here shortly. I'm super excited, and I was I was bizarrely really like excited about this show, and there, I've made no secret of the fact that the my palate doesn't necessarily always hit the Rocky portfolio very well. There are some that, and we'll talk about some tonight that I really really enjoy. Um, and upon first light, this number six. Have you had the number six yet, Coop?
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, I had it and I was young. So I'm gonna be very not so I couldn't really do a fair thing on it, but it was one of those cigars. I got it and smoked it the day it came in, which why I do it something I don't know. So I kind of have it put down for a while.
Um, the I gotta say this is smoking really great right now. I mean, it's just a couple puffs in, so we'll see how it performs for the rest of it. But I've enjoyed some of his recent stuff a little bit, and over the course of 20 plus years, I'm sorry, even the most discerning palate, I mean, even the pickiest of palates, he's produced so many good cigars. You've got to have a Rocky cigar. If you're a cigar smoker and have smoked cigars in the last 20 years, there's got to be a Rocky cigar that hits the palate the way you like it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And Rocky, I think, does a lot of brands.
Yeah.
That may be his downfall is he does a lot. Paul Asadori and I, we did interview Rocky Patel back in 2015, and we asked him that question about that was the year he was coming out with like 8 different releases at IPCBR.
Yeah.
And he always got dinged on that when General would come out with like 20, right? Somehow Rocky took the beating on that, which I always thought was unfair. But Rocky kind of said it was hard to kind of for things not to make the cut. He was explaining that there was so much he wanted to release into the market that he felt like leaving something out. He was, leaving something behind. So, and some of the brands I think have worked out. Like, we talked about this Super Lajero. I don't know how this one is off the market unless they couldn't get the tobacco. I love this cigar. So,
I do as well. I
yeah, I
do as
mean
well.
the freedom actually was another one I liked. That came back as it's a JR exclusive. I heard.
The
Uh,
the Royal, the
no, the
Royal.
The Freedom, the Rocky Patel
No, no,
Freedom.
no. I'm saying we're just rattling off some of
Oh, the
Rocky's
Royale.
finest. Yeah. So the
The
Royale was
Yeah. You know what was really interesting though? So when we went through this, right, we just put our picks up before the show, and what I was stunned is we have 2 different We usually have an overlap, like we had no overlap this time. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it says for the breadth of the Rocky portfolio and what he's done.
we don't have any overlap.
No, we have none. Because I,
Wow.
I added mine in right before the
Son
failed
of a
string.
bitch. Well, that's right. Yeah, that's right. We
Yeah.
were close. We were close on one where mine kind of fell. So that's cool. No
I
worries.
yeah, and I kind of changed a little. I did change a rule up, and I'll explain that like 'cause when we get into it. Not a rule, but I changed kind of my philosophy slightly for one of the picks. Um, but yeah, like I said, there's so much to pick from. That like I said, I don't think it's a bad thing per se to do that. Um, you know, we there was some. You had a couple. You added something into the notes though before we kind of get started. And it was on Rocky's new release.
Yeah, the Minerva.
Yeah, the Cigar Smoking World Championship Maerva, which Rocky Patel is now the new sponsor of the Cigar Smoking World Championships, which unfortunately have been put on hold. But he has a cigar, and he actually released that cigar worldwide.
Yeah, and it was specific. So for those people who need to go back and Coop, you can actually pull the exact number, the episode number that we did with our voice, the cigar tender, and the former national cigar smoking world champion from the United States, who's represented us on the world stage. It's truly, I mean, you and I did it, Coop. It was an exercise in futility and resilience, and you narrowly beat me, but we nowhere near came to the level in the class of what Jason and his his cohorts are the set the standard of cigar smoking championships. But the Minerva is a specific vitola that for years it was actually the competition worldwide was sponsored by Macanudo, and Macanudo produced the cigar for it. And then before that, it was another well-renowned, like one of those classic brands, right, Coop?
Yeah,
Before the Macanudo. But what I thought was really interesting, um, and hats off to Rocky for being able to put this together. But I think this really sets him as not just a cigar brand, not just a brand that's made for the American market. This makes him a worldwide, international recognized brand. It's a hell of a distinction to be able to provide that cigar for this competition. And and bravo to him for being able to do that. So it was really it was really exciting to kind of see that from his perspective. So they before all the subsequent closures happened, they actually did have the first North American competition of 2020 for the Cigar Smoking Championship at Rocky's own Burn Lounge in Naples. It was on March 11th, actually. So not crazy to say, less than 2 weeks ago. Completely different world that we live in now 2 weeks later, which is interesting. But that actually happened, and so there is a contestant that qualified, obviously a winner. And the first place, let me see, the first place was a time of 100 just over 107 minutes. What did we do, Coop? 30?
Yeah, if you go back to special edition, I think it's 37. And I'll fact check that. We tried to simulate the Cigar Smoking World Championship with Jason Loyce, who is Bear mentioned won the U.S. Championship, and he went to compete over in Croatia. We were supposed to have Jason back on for the Kentucky Derby show we were going to do this year. We'll have to get him back if we don't get him for that. But yeah, it is a challenging thing to do. To kind of keep a cigar smoking, and have restrictions on how you can touch it. You can't touch it up. You only can light it once. Only can ash at certain points. And it's Primetime Special Edition 37. Yep.
What was interesting about that show is what I really enjoyed about that is there were a lot of things I knew about the physics, the physics of cigar smoking, and just some of the things, like some of the techniques to keep a cigar lit and things like that. I knew some of that, not from practice, but just from research, right? And as Jason explained it, and since we were smoking so slow that night, you actually really got to see the physics take effect. And so, like for the uneven burn, for example, and this one's not, my cigar is actually burning really even right now. But if you're looking at it, there's a little bit of a overrun here on the top of the cigar where I'm at. And if I hold it in this position with that, the flame will actually take care of it. If you hold it long enough and you're patient enough with it, it'll actually take care of it and even out.
Oh, wow.
Which is just really, really fast, because heat rises, right?
Yep.
So even in the small space of a cigar, heat rises. So really, really interesting.
I gotta just say that this 20 is this Maduro smoking great. These have been aging probably for about a year and a half in my humidor. And I haven't lit one of these up in a while. They just there was stuff I was gonna review and I just never got to it. And I'm also embarrassed I didn't get to it. This is actually really good. The other thing I just want to mention is you made the comment about Rocky kind of going onto the global world stage with getting this cigar thing. And before people say, "Hey, Bear's drinking Kool-Aid here," right? Because let me tell you, Rocky had a #1 cigar, that Grand Reserve with Cigar Journal in Europe. So Rocky Patel is a brand that I think quietly is becoming a very much a global brand right now. And we're seeing that over the last 2 or 3 years right now with Rocky Patel.
Well, the Cigar Smoking World Championships is not just going to give that to just anybody.
Yeah.
And yes, and obviously Rocky's getting some sponsorship, value out of this too. Like it's not like, it's not like an award or anything like that. I mean, he's there is some marketing here too, right? I mean, I'm not that naive.
Yeah.
I've been accused of naivete, but definitely not to this extent. But
no.
I mean, they wouldn't have made that choice. They wouldn't have allowed him to sponsor and make the cigar if they didn't feel like it was a good marketing ploy on their end too.
No, I agree. But I definitely think, no doubt, that this is the next step that Rocky's now taking in terms of becoming a global. I mean, I don't think it's not that he wasn't a global brand, but now you're really seeing him, getting a #1 at Cigar Journal, which is, you can argue that's the most important #1 in the Eastern Hemisphere to get, right? So that no one saw that coming when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
I have smoked that cigar and it's good. I actually got my hands on that cigar and it's good.
The Cigar Journal award winner?
The Grand Reserve, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I don't know if at some point it will come to the U.S. I don't know if it's a if it's an FDA thing or not, or if it's just something he wants to keep over there. That's not really clear to me.
Well, I'm enjoying this cigar, the #6.
Yeah.
Dude, I really get interested to get your thoughts now that they've been sitting for you for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I'm being very transparent. I don't normally smoke a cigar off the truck, but something I do. I'm not gonna say I don't, and if it's a bad experience, it's not something that I want to kind of say, just because I know, like I recently had our friend Dan Thompson. I actually got my hand. You actually sent them to me. The to be named Maduros.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now those were great. Those were great. I mean, I got them from the store from you, right? And I know you guys,
Right.
but even when I get stuff from the store, I put it away. But I wanted, there were a few reasons why I wanted to try that cigar. I'm like, that's a good cigar right off the truck. So it can happen. I'm not saying every cigar happens like that.
Right. Well, and I packaged them with care and love too, Coop. You have to give me that.
Yeah,
They had
let
they
me tell
had
you, there is one company, I'm not going to throw them under the bus here, right? They're not packaging their cigars in like Ziploc bags and with Bovida and padding, right? And we get, look, I'm in it for the free samples, right? I've always said that from the beginning, right? But if you're gonna send me the free samples, you don't want them to be damaged, right, or unhumidified, right?
100%, man.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's get into our selections now. Couple of things. We'll pick who's gonna start first right now. I went the bear route this time, okay? So like Bear last time introduced the idea of mapping the cigar to the president on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, thematic. Go good with we're going thematically, so
So I struggled with one. I struggled with one of the presidents, right? And my pick probably isn't. The other three I feel really
Was it
good.
Jefferson?
No, it was Washington.
Really?
It was
Okay.
Washington I had the problem with. Yeah.
Oh, the Washington was the most obvious for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But yeah, Jefferson was easy. Lincoln was easy. Roosevelt was easy for me. But Washington, I really struggled with it. But it was
Jefferson was the hard one for me.
But it was the one cigar I had. I said, all right, it's got to go to Washington because the other three were pretty straightforward.
Right.
So who makes the first pick?
Well, who started last time?
I think I did. So why don't you go?
Okay. Fair enough. So I'm actually gonna go in yeah, what the hell? We'll go in order.
Should I go? Okay, so I'll go in order too.
Well, we don't have any crossover, so it's fine. So George Washington to me, there's a lot of things that George Washington represents to me. Obviously the father of our country, and there's a lot of things about his story in particularly that I love. There are a lot of fun facts in it. I don't know if I've ever told you this story, Coop, but George Washington, for a lot of his life actually didn't have a lot of money. He wasn't, Mount Vernon is this grand estate that we see it now that's been really well kept and everything. But, financially speaking, he really wasn't well endowed in terms of money. Like they did all right and everything like that, but he wasn't like rolling in it, so to speak. And so, but Mount Vernon, as we said, as I said just a second ago, is this grand estate and everything. And he wanted to make it appear to be what it was, this very large estate and everything like that. Well, obviously, stone, just like it is today, and brick is obviously more expensive than building your house out of wood or other less expensive materials, right?
Right.
So what he would do is that he would actually he would have his slaves. Let's not skirt the issue here. He had his slaves, and his workers and himself. He had them cut wood paneling they would have the kind of like the etching of, it's kind of hard to describe without the visual, kind of the etching of a brick, right? So like almost like three-dimensional a little bit with the edges and everything. So it looked like but it was made of wood, but it looked like, if you look closely, it's looked like in the shape of a brick. But what he would do then, instead of, he would paint it, he would throw sand in the paint. So when he painted the wood, and it would have texture to it, so it would look like stone. So he had these, part of his estate, that would look has been obviously rebuilt and since such like, but with stone and everything. Well, for a long time, he had wood paneling on Mount Vernon that looked like stone because of the way it was painted. So where am I going with this? You can make things. You can have a regal legacy built out of things that aren't that expensive, and still have.
Okay, I was okay.
Okay,
I say
so,
okay.
you were wondering how I was going to get there, right?
Well, yeah,
So,
no, it's okay. Okay, yep.
so my pick for the Washington is to me, like I said, it was obvious. I have to pick the Rocky Patel Edge.
Which one?
I knew you were going to ask it. That's why I put it like that. So I'm going to go with the Carajo. So the
Okay.
Carajo is the one who actually very recently in the last few years was actually a top 10 cigar aficionado
Yep.
cigar of the year. It's widely considered, I believe, every piece of research I've done, it is the most popular that is
Right.
sold, even more so than the Connecticut, which still blows my mind, and even more so than the Maduro. And it's the one that I actually enjoy the most. I used to enjoy the Nicaraguan, the Habano one for a while.
Right.
But I've since gone back to the Corojo as the one that I enjoy the most. I have not. It's been several years since I've smoked the Sumatran Edge. I don't know when the last time you smoked one of
Yeah,
those
me
is.
too. I haven't smoked the Sumatra in a while. I mean, I liked some of the Candelas I smoked. I actually didn't think it was a bad Candela.
The
The
Candela. There's the A10, right? The barber pole. There's the A10s,
The
the barber
A10.
pole.
Yep, that's right. The A10. Uh,
Um,
the Maduro Edge.
the Maduro. The Maduro Edge is one that it's never hit my palate right. It
Interesting.
never.
I like the Maduro Edge. Yeah.
But the Corojo, yeah, I specifically said the Edge on purpose just to light a fire under you.
Yeah. I was gonna say, what are you doing? Tobacco business here?
Yeah, exactly, man. I wanted. Hey, listen, we
Right.
gotta light the fire, man. We didn't really have any controversial issues tonight, so I wanted to
The,
get started early. But that's my George Washington pick, and I think one of my favorite stories about him, about the way he built Mount Vernon out of wood paneling with paint and sand. He made a regal estate out of. He made this grand mansion out of, you know, really just good, solid, valuable, inexpensive product.
there you go. That's a good one. I don't think any, the Edge. I mean, you look historically what it's done for the brand. Um, that people. I mean, this Rocky will tell the story. He was gonna put 100 cigars in these cabinets. People thought he was nuts. They were unbanded. They started taking off. He finally had to put bands on it because people were counterfeiting it basically and selling it as that. So he put the footer bands on it. It's grown into a huge brand for him. I want to say now it's like 12. I want to say he may be going off. I think this may be the 15th year of that actually. Because I was at Rocky Patel in 2015 when the barber poles were coming out. So this may be the 15th anniversary of the Edge.
It's been a long, long run, and it's
Yeah.
really the cigar. It's really the cigar that has sustained him. I would argue that almost every new project that he takes on is funded by just Edge sales every year.
I mean, the Edge is a blockbuster hit for him. We don't hear about it in the review community unless something new comes out. But I could tell you those cigars sell. You probably can know that too.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yep.
Have you ever been in a cigar shop? Anywhere in the United States, there's an Edge display.
Yeah.
It's the oh god what the turntable cart that literally you put the 100 count crates on these, and you can put several of them, and it spins and everything, and I
Yep.
mean it's gigantic. It's
Yep.
obnoxious. It's obnoxious in terms of how much real estate it eats up in a humidor, but it's still impressive nonetheless.
Yeah. 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 No, I agree. Um, I agree. So that's I mean, a solid pick. That is the first selection on Mount Rushmore for you.
Let's hear your Washington. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. This is going to be a good one.
All right. So Washington, I know when I was looking at Washington, I said was the last one I filled in, right? And this cigar didn't fill in, like it wasn't the father of the Rocky Patel brand, right? it wasn't the first Rocky Patel cigar. But when you kind of go through those lists of great presidents, right? Washington's name is in there.
Of
And
course.
there's always that debate who the greatest president was, but Washington's name's in there. So that's kind of how I backed this one in there. And this is the one cigar that I picked that normally I don't go this route. When I went and did the Drew Estate ones, if you remember, I didn't go the limited route. I stayed away from the limited route. But this is a limited, but it was a limited that came out several years ago. It was brought back recently, and I think now it's more of an ongoing limited, done in small batches. But in my opinion, this cigar, how can I put it? When people, this really was a cigar embraced well, I think, by people who smoked it for Rocky Patel. It was a sought after cigar when it came out, and it was a sought after cigar when it got re-released. And it's the Rocky Patel 50th.
Yeah, basically the antithesis of my pick. The opposite.
That was why I was laughing. Yeah, but it had nothing to do with the luxury piece. It had to do with just basically Rocky did a hell of a cigar with the Rocky Patel 50. That's really what it came down to. He just did a hell of a cigar. And it's one that I think, a lot of people, it was a little more limited. It was more expensive. This came out in 2011, by the way. It had close to a $20 price point, and it was for Rocky's 50th birthday. And in my opinion, it was just beautiful. I mean, you remember those I have one of the boxes, the zebra wood box.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a humidor, and
Those were gorgeous.
I
I
saw
really like
there
those.
was a retailer getting rid of it, like in the box thing, and I bought it for $2. I'm like, are you kidding me? Is this? I can buy this? Yeah. I'm like, done. So I went and bought it. I normally don't buy empty. In fact, I don't buy empty cigar boxes, but this one I did. And it's got the orange. The original had the orange. The new one I think was a little more. It had a little more. I like the original orange packaging better. The new one had the red. It's got that Oscuro wrapper on it. It comes out of its Nicaragua factory. And box pressed, classic Rocky cocoa, pepper, earthy, I enjoyed it. I think the originals were still the best. The second batch was very good, but I think that original batch it was tough to get. And it was funny. I kind of thought maybe this one would be on your list too. But like I said, it kind of backed into the Washington piece, so I'm stretching it a little. And in the end, I'm saying this was many people because it was a top. It was number 12 on the 2011 Coop list, so it made the Coop list in 2011. So that's my pick.
So, full disclosure.
Yep.
I have only smoked the 50th once.
Well, they're not cheap. I can understand. Did you smoke the first batch or the second batch?
I had to smoke the first batch. Yeah, I did.
The orange ones are the red ones are
the orange ones.
I wish he would have kept the orange, but I understand why he changed it too.
I thought this, from my memory of it, I enjoyed it. Where I was financially in my life at the time, it was a stretch. I will admit, which is probably why I've smoked only one. But from what I remember, it was an enjoyable cigar.
Yeah, I bought a bunch of them in Denver. My only other I was in Denver early this year. I had bought them in Denver in 2011. I took some home to review, but I smoked one of them at the Brown Palace Hotel in downtown Denver. And that was where I had my first one. I'm like, wow, this cigar is like really good. But so yeah, I remember where I smoked it for the first time, and it was really good.
This number 6 is incredible.
Really? So I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I said, I'm impressed with this 20th Maduro as well. This has got about a year and a half of age on it. And I'm surprised by this. Now, it's funny, there's a natural of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what my favorite sizes of the natural?
Is there a Gordo?
I don't know.
So it's a Lancero?
Yeah.
Oh wow, look at you.
Lancero was really good in that side. It It made the coupe list in 2015.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I was gonna say.
Yeah, it was on the coupe list. It was lower. It was like in the 20s, but it was still on there.
See, you can enjoy a fine Lancero coupe. It's okay.
That blend worked. This one I don't think would work on a Lancero. I think you get too much of the wrapper on here, the Maduro.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Go
So
no, go ahead, please. You're
no,
about to
no,
say something.
no. That was pretty much what I had to say about the Rocky, the Rocky. And like I said, they're not cheap. You could still get them. I don't know when he releases them from time to time. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's my Washington pick on Mount Rocky Patel Mount Rushmore.
Awesome. Well, Thomas Jefferson is the next president up. And so Thomas Jefferson, you know, Thomas Jefferson is uh such a unique character in history, right? And unique in the sense of like, I'm not here to talk about the the bedroom secrets of Thomas Jefferson, or not like worst kept secrets in history about him specifically. But there, he was an interesting character nonetheless. He took education very seriously. He was well read. In fact, he is regarded as who inventing the lazy Susan. Did you know
Really?
this? Yeah. So what he would do, the reason why he invented the lazy Susan or created the lazy Susan was not for, condiments on your kitchen table. It was so that what he would do is he had set up a lazy Susan in this part of Monticello where some windows were, so where he would have great natural light because obviously they didn't have electricity back then. And he had he would have 4 books open and on a lazy Susan. So he would read 4 books at a time. And that's how he would do it. So he would switch from one book to the other, to kind of keep his mind sharp, as it were. Benjamin Franklin gets regarded, and he certainly was as a fine inventor during that time. But Thomas Jefferson invented and did a lot of things at Monticello to make things work the way he wanted. He invented a clock that still works to this day that sits in the foyer of Monticello, and it can tell you the time, the date, the month, like the year, still to this day, and it still works. And the way it functions, it's really weird. It has this really long chain that he didn't have room for. So what he did was he cleared a hole at the bottom of the floor. So this clock, this chain that will rotate, obviously, it goes into the floor and then comes back up.
Okay.
But he was well traveled, very learned. And so when I thought about Thomas Jefferson and I thought about Rocky Patel cigars, I thought about a cigar that kind of signaled to me a turning point in Rocky's career. Not the turning point, but a significant turning point.
Okay.
And away from just, the Indian tobacco days, away from the edge cigars, and something that was Jeffersonian, worthy of Jeffersonian comparison of this learned, well-traveled man who's a unique person in history. And so for that reason, I chose the vintage 1992 Sumatran.
Okay.
And the reason I chose this cigar over the 1990 and over the 1999 and the 2003 and some other vintages is because if you've listened to, I've listened to a few interviews with Rocky Patel, and Rocky has this great affinity for Sumatran tobacco. He's told the story a couple times in a couple of different platforms and in a couple of different ways, but he has this affinity for Sumatran tobacco. It felt to me like the way he was describing his first experience with when he was working with blending with that tobacco, it was kind of like his aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so for that reason, I chose the vintage 92 Sumatran.
Yeah, I mean that's I could see how you got to that one. Yeah. And again, you look at the vintage line for Rocky Patel. a highly successful line for him. With different choices, and you could have probably went with any of those, obviously, but yeah, the 1992 is solid. I mean, I mean, Rocky's done very good with Sumatra. There's no question about it.
I still think out of the whole vintage lines, the 2003 the Cameroon is probably my favorite personally.
But why didn't you put it on Mount Rushmore then? Would be my question.
Because I don't look at this as like, you know, I don't just look at this as like Bears, like what Bear would consider, I'm
Right, and
considering
I
it
think
from
that's
a whole portfolio
and I agree.
perspective.
That's how I kind of did this too, especially when you see my Roosevelt pick. Why?
Well, my Roosevelt pick too is weird,
Yeah,
considering history, as it were, but there's a reason for it as well. But I
yeah,
think I have a reason for that too. But that's kind of what I was looking at.
yeah.
It's not my Mount Rushmore of cigars necessarily, specifically. It's my interpretation of his portfolio
Yeah.
being on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, no, and I kind of agree. I think that's how we both approach the exercise too. And you'll see like why I didn't include like we'll kind of get to why I didn't include certain cigars, but yeah, I agree. That's the
Like
way to do it.
when we get to a certain brand, and I have this brand in mind, when we get into it in 6 months, a year, 2 years, or whenever we get to this particular brand, there is this there, and I'm notating it now. There will be a cigar that goes on my Mount Rushmore for this brand that I absolutely just do not like.
Fair
Not for
enough.
Rocky Patel, but for a future brand. I already have it in mind. I already know what it's going to be. Unless the course of human history really changes dramatically for that brand, it has to be that pick. It has to be for that on that Mount Rushmore for that. And I do not flat out do not like it. So
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, no, that's it's totally fair too. Like I said, I think it's totally fair. Um, you know, because again, we're trying to we're trying to represent the brand as a whole. So I think, like I said, my last one is like you said, it's not one I normally smoke a lot. I don't think it's a bad cigar, certainly, but you'll see why I picked that one as well if you haven't looked at it already.
mhm.
Yeah.
So what was your Jefferson pick?
All right. So my Jefferson pick was let's kind of go back. So I looked at Jefferson as he had the political side of him. But he also had a kind of a creative side to him.
Absolutely.
Right. So, and he was, he's a inventor and, he had this creativity side of it. Right. So I kind of looked at Rocky. What is something that he did creative? And this goes back again to 2011. Um, he, at the time, Rocky Patel, he makes cigars in both Nicaragua and Honduras. He has a more of a boutique factory in Nicaragua, and he has a larger operation that he kind of is partnered with the Placencias up in Honduras. Back in 2011, Honduras, and we've talked about this before. They tried to have a cigar festival, called Humo Jaguar,
Yep.
and there was a little bit. So basically, the Honduran manufacturers participated in it, much like they do Pro Cigar. They had an interesting competition there, in terms of making there was a contest to make the best Honduran Pro cigar in Honduras. There's a little controversy on that because um, Nestor Miranda, Miami Cigar came out with something called Humo Jaguar, which was done by Placencia, which was supposedly the winning blend. But that
That
same
was that
year,
was a good cigar.
yeah, we talked about it was great. That was one of the lost cigars we talked about.
Oh man.
Yeah, I love that cigar, right?
Gosh.
Oakland Raider, Humo Jaguar bat. I mean, I would love to see Humo Jaguar come back, right? It never. I think they only had one or two of them, maybe, of this festival. But Rocky Patel also claimed victory in that competition. And he created a cigar called the Edición Única, Honduran Puro, right? Um,
Oh, interesting.
um, and he claimed that he was the winner of that. And there's a lot of controversy if the cigars were the same cigars because of the Placencia connection or if they were different. So no one really ever knows the truth about that, right? Who really won that, right? But
Right.
Rocky came out with that. He came out with that Unica. He released it in 2011 as a limited run, and it was a smash hit for him. I'm sorry. Let me say the name of it correctly. The Rocky Patel Edition Unica. Um, and it was so popular that he came back a couple years later and ended up releasing it as and again for more limited production runs. I'd say this was more ongoing than what we've seen with the Rocky Patel 50. You could find these in again they're in big crates as well in there. Fantastic cigar. And it's a popular cigar. It's one that again I think people eh, one okay. I'm not gonna argue who won this contest or not. I'll just say that Humo Jaguar and the Edition Unico were two great cigars, and two, like I said, people really work. I remember when they came back with these cigars, they put the blue bands on them, like the blue seafoam bands, as opposed they used to have white bands. But people were like excited to see this cigar come back. Again, it's another cigar I see people enjoy, and it's one that he goes to a lot. Um, and I picked it with Jefferson because of the creativity. Hey, there was
Mhm.
creativity to enter this contest. Um, let's kind of put it in there. That's kind of how I mapped that one to my Jefferson pick.
I love that pick for that reason. I think that was very, that's a cigar, frankly, that I didn't even think about. Um, it wasn't even on my radar. And but having hear you talk about it and where its place in Rocky history and in the cigar industry history too, that's a great solid pick. I love it.
It's an important pick too because I think again Rocky gets sometimes a bad rap, but here's something he entered and the peers in Honduras, the people at the festival, they felt obviously this. Assuming I'm gonna assume that he did have a winning blend. There's something mysterious about the whole thing we don't know, but again, the cigar spoke for itself when it got released. And by the way, I didn't think it smoked at all like the Humo Jaguar. So I think they were two different cigars. And I smoked a lot of both of these cigars.
Yeah, it is interesting considering, Placencia worked, with Rocky for a number, obviously, pretty extensively, and so that was an interesting, controversial, just time, I guess. Um, I hope one day Honduras can do a festival like Puro Sabor or Pro Cigar. I think that's important.
I mean,
Habanos.
you think about who now I'm a big fan of Honduran tobacco, right? And it's hard, I think, to blend I mean, I, I think it's a hard thing to. I tried to do a Honduran Puro on the Rocky trip I went to. It was the worst cigar I ever made, right? But I love a good Honduran Puro. Um, you would have Rocky Patel, Placencia, um, Races Cubanas, all they do. Obviously the Aroas,
Yeah,
Oscar Valadares,
Gabby
Generals,
Cassidy,
Gabby Cappy.
General.
Yep. Generals down there. Alta, this is Florida Copan. They're in the north. So Camacho. So great brands down there, and what better way? I mean, like I said, I'd love to see them one day have a festival back. I think it would be great for the country. I think it would be great for the cigar industry.
There's a lot to celebrate in the cigar culture in Honduras.
Yep.
And Rocky's certainly a huge part of that. And they're like in some of the other names that you mentioned too. So I think that I think it would be
You know,
just
we
awesome.
we forget that Rocky's roots really, for the most part, came from Honduras. I mean, the brand really emerged out of Honduras, and then eventually he went.
Do we
He had the
forget that? Because
what?
that's how I have always identified him.
I think a lot of people associate him with now Nicaragua too. Maybe because he has his own branded factory in Nicaragua. But I don't know. I think it gets lost sometimes that that's where he started. I think people may have always assumed he's had made cigars out of both countries.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think like his roots, the foundation, what what he was able to do, you know, You know, the narrative is interesting about how the cigar boom is being judged. Like more recent, like in recent history, the cigar boom when I first started smoking cigars was regarded as this herald time in cigar history. Right?
Yeah.
It was the boom. You know, it was almost whispered, right? The boom. And now in 2020, it's almost as though the cigar boom of the 90s was really it's kind of been revered in history now as a cautionary tale almost. It's
Yeah.
that's the way it's kind of been reduced. And even on Rocky's website, and I've seen this in other places too, so it's not just on his website. The the descriptor of Rocky Patel is not a cigar boom product, you know, something that came out of the cigar boom, but a cigar boom survivor. That adjective is thrown on it, and it's on him specifically, and that's an interesting way to look at a very, you know, obviously a huge time in the cigar industry, considering
Yeah.
it put cigars back on the map.
Yeah, I'll give a little preview for what we're doing on Thursday. We have a media panel, and it's not going to be all coronavirus talk. It's not going to be all PCA talk. We're actually going to look back at the decade, and I know Dojo did a decade when Aaron and I went on the show, but we're doing it a little different. We're going to look at the brands over the decade and kind of see how they did. And my theme for the decade was this wasn't a boom; it was the Renaissance. I think this was it was a creative renaissance that we had in the 2000 in the last decade.
Right. Okay.
So that's kind of how I look at it. A little different than the boom, which was this explosion of expansion. You know what we saw.
Yeah, it's in a lot of ways it was like the Industrial Revolution, right?
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
kind of how I look. That's a great analogy. You know, the Industrial Revolution, and we just saw a lot happen there. But you know, I wouldn't. I've heard people call it the second boom. I don't think it is.
no, I think the Renaissance is an appropriate descriptor for now because
Uh,
it's a different landscape.
Yeah, it totally, it
I
totally is.
mean, I mean, Nicaragua during the boom. Oh man, I mean, I remember when I started smoking cigars. I mean, lest we forget, I haven't been smoking cigars for. I mean, I've been smoking cigars for a long time. I've been smoking since my 18th birthday. I'm 36. I'm going to be 37 this year. So, for 18 years, 19 years, so almost 2 decades, right?
Yep, yep. No, it's true.
Um, when I first started smoking cigars, Honduran tobacco was actually more popular than Nicaraguan, at least from my perspective, it was.
It was. I mean, it was.
And to say that now is ludicrous. It's
I mean,
ludicrous.
I mean, I love Honduras. It's third in the terms of the non-Cuban countries.
Absolutely.
You probably say it's fourth if you include Cuba. Um, that doesn't, like I said, you know,
It's
I've had,
fifth if you look at it from just a straight tobacco perspective.
yeah,
Like because you got to consider Ecuador a more leading tobacco producing country because of the amount of the type of vintages that they're able to produce. If that makes sense.
yes, yeah, I agree. I think Ecuador is a different animal because they don't do production as much
Yeah,
there.
it's
Costa Rica's got limited production they got there.
no, Costa Rica's not even in the discussion.
Brazil, same thing.
Yeah, Brazil, Peru, I mean
Yeah,
Colombia. Yeah, no, that's not even in the discussion, is what
yeah.
I'm talking. I mean,
Cameroon, yeah,
the amount of volume of the tobacco that's coming out of Ecuador and the different types of tobacco coming out of Ecuador. Everyone uses Ecuadorian tobacco.
yeah,
Habano,
no,
Connecticut, Sumatran,
yeah,
Cameroon, everything.
yeah.
That
All
soil
right,
is so impressive.
no, I agree. I'd love to go to Ecuador. Like, that's kind of on my bucket list. Um, that in Peru. So let's just kind of recap where we are. Your picks. The Washington pick was the Rocky Patel Edge Sumatra.
Corojo.
Oh, Carajo. I'm sorry. Yep, Carajo, Edge Carajo, and the Jefferson pick was the vintage 1992 Sumatra.
Right. And your
Uh,
your Washington pick was the Rocky Patel 50.
yep,
And your Jefferson pick is the Rocky Patel Unica Edition.
yep. So let's go to your Lincoln pick.
So my Lincoln pick is to me, this was the easiest one for me to pick. Was Lincoln. Jefferson was my hardest, but
Yeah,
Lincoln was my easiest one to pick. The Edge was the most obvious, I thought, but when we first announced this was the cigar I had in mind for Lincoln.
Right.
And I mentioned how the vintage 92 Sumatran was a turning point cigar for Rocky, right? It was a turn. I consider this cigar the turning point. The turning point, because for a long time, from the very beginning of Rocky's entrance into the industry, you know, and Rocky's been accused of he's been accused of having a chip on his shoulder. He has that kind of reputation, and that's not a knock. He certainly should, because the hesitancy, the doubters, the people that the people that had a lack of faith in his ability to build a brand in this industry and last as long as he has, it's right up there with the Drew Estate Acid, right? People thought they were nuts. People thought Rocky was crazy. And they thought that he wasn't going to make 5 minutes, and here he is 20 plus years later, just being a theme of a show that we're doing, right?
Right.
And the amount of his portfolio is as vast as some of the, you know, it's as vast as some of the major cigar producers in the world. And so this, to me, this was a turning point cigar for him, and it's actually my second favorite cigar of his, but it is the cigar that I smoke the most often of his, and I absolutely I really do. And it's his turning point cigar, and it was basically, in no uncertain terms, was almost his middle finger to all the doubters, because, and he produced a home run, because it's standed the test of time for well over 10 more years since it's been on the market, and that, of course, is the decade.
You can't. I mean, that
And go ahead, please.
can't argue with that one. Uh,
I
yeah, you can't argue with that one. That was, and Rocky will tell you how important that cigar is for what it was for him.
And the reason why this was a pick for me, and I knew this was going to be Lincoln, was just to kind of link, historically speaking. Lincoln obviously saw this country through its most divisive time. People talk about today, and I'm not going to get into politics about today, but people talk about the divisiveness of the country today. I'm sorry. We went to war during Lincoln's presidency.
Right.
And it was a turning point in this country. And so, for that obvious reason, the decade is my Lincoln pick of Rocky Patel's Mount Rushmore.
I really liked some of the offshoots he did at a decade.
The decade Cameroon is awesome too.
And the Limitada, Pennsylvania broadleaf, as good a Pennsylvania broadleaf as I've had. They were more limited. That decade Cameron was great.
Yes.
I think that was a limited run as well. I don't think they did, they do those all the time.
I don't see them anymore. I saw them for a little bit, and I smoked quite a few of them. I enjoyed that cigar. I didn't enjoy it as much as the original decade, but I really enjoyed that cigar.
I did too.
I wish Rocky would do more with Cameroon. I really do.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's probably he only has, it's always a limited tobacco. So that's kind of where I'll give him the break. And I came close to putting, by the way, I came very close to putting the decade on the list. I really did.
I thought this was the one cigar we would have an overlap on.
It was, and like I said, it was. I could have easily put it on there. By the way, there was a comment. I just want to, before I forget. There was a comment from Ron Nielsen. He said, "Sorry if I missed it, but the Grand Reserve Rocky is number one in my opinion." Actually, we talked about the Grand Reserve at the very beginning, just so you know. And I was telling you how good a cigar it is. And
yeah, I haven't smoked it. So
if I had smoked more of it, it would have had some. We may do this 5 years from now. The Grand Reserve may be on there, because I think and the reason why I'm tangenting up to this pick is I think the Grand Reserve for maybe what Decade did for Rocky in the U.S. market, Grand Reserve may be what he's doing in the international market.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, I think that's how important a cigar that is.
That's a fair point. Absolutely.
Yeah, but it got him. He got that huge rating from Aficionado, We can say what we want about aficionado, but 90, he got a 95 rating from that. And I think he's got some top tens with that cigar as well.
The cigar's incredible. It
It's a
really
great,
is. I
it's a great,
really
and it's 15 years old already. 14, 15 years old, that cigar.
that cigar has truly, along with the edge, has really truly stayed the test of time.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you on that. It's a fantastic cigar. It's a good pick. There's no one would argue that pick, and I think it fits perfect with a Lincoln pick too.
Mm-hmm. So, on that note, what's yours? What's your Lincoln pick?
Okay. I just want to pull something up here. But okay, I'll start it off while I'm pulling it up. So Lincoln, I know you're the history guy, so correct me if I'm wrong. Lincoln actually he served in the House of Representatives, right? At one point.
Yeah.
Okay, and then he kind of struggled a bit,
Mm-hmm.
where I think he was trying. There was one point he was trying to get on the vice presidential ticket, and then he tried to run for Senate against Douglas, right?
And lost. Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
lost, right? And then he had this comeback and became president of the United States. So I kind of took that analogy, right? And I said, all right, and this is why I kind of and I like this cigar actually a lot too. Maybe better than the Decade in a lot of ways, right? I went and said, well, what was Rocky's comeback, right? Did Rocky have a comeback, right? And the answer is yeah, he did. So let's kind of go a little bit in the history of the Rocky Patel portfolio. The Decade comes out. Rocky starts rolling, right? The vintages start taking off. He comes out with, remember that seasonal series, the
Yeah.
autumn,
The
right?
winter. Yeah. The
I almost put the winter on the list, by the way. It just was too
winter's a
limited.
good cigar too.
Yeah, right. And Rocky's rolling, right? 2009, he kind of, in my opinion, had a bad year. He came out with two cigars that I just thought were kind of stopped the momentum a lot. And I don't know how else to say it. And they're not made anymore. One was the Patel brothers,
That's
right?
right.
But the other one was the 1961. Those cigars they were just misses.
Oh, I forgot about the 61. Well, it was forgettable.
They were misses. From day one, they were misses, right?
Well, the Patel brothers wasn't just a miss from a cigar perspective, but the branding on it too was just a little off.
Yeah, and I think they fixed that when they went and gave Nimish and Nimish kind of got his own brand, and then Nish gets its own brand, right? Under there. I think they fixed that. But yeah, Patel, I thought it was a miss as well. There was something that cigars just never connected, right, with people. And they did not last long, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so 2009 was not a good year for Rocky. I'm going to just kind of say it. So Rocky goes into 2010 and he needs to kind of have a comeback, right? And it's an anniversary year for Rocky. So it's his 15th anniversary, and that's when the Rocky Patel 15th anniversary comes out. And I think I called it Rocky's redemption. Rocky was back. That was a big hit cigar for him. And he needed that big hit after an off year from the year before. That was like, yeah, this is what we expect from Rocky Patel. And I love that cigar, right? It was a Coupe 1225 cigar in 2010. They repackaged it a couple years ago. They spruced up the packaging a lot more, made it really, really nice looking. And it's a beautiful, it's a great Ecuadorian Habano blend over Nicaraguan tobacco. So I mean, if you just, I thought it's a good recipe, and it's unique. Like a lot of Ecuadorian Habano Nicaraguan cigars taste the same to me sometimes. This one was just really, really unique with it. I just enjoyed it, from start to finish. And wasn't super expensive. It was around the $10 price point when it came out.
Right.
And I think it kind of put Rocky back, just like Lincoln kind of came back with the president. Again, Rocky was those cigars got him a rating back on aficionado again, and I would say it was his second big hit after the Decade. Like the Decade came, since the decade. I say it was his best cigar that kind of was received since the decade because he had the vintages that were doing well too.
You know what my personal problem with the 15th is?
What?
I smoked it after I smoked the decade.
See, I like it better than the decade.
Oh, oof. No.
But
but that's my personal problem with it. It's a good cigar. It's a very good cigar. I would have enjoyed it more had I never smoked the decade. They're two completely different cigars. That's a terrible comparison, other than the fact that they're milestone smokes for him. That's a really lousy comparison. And I understand that, but personally speaking, I enjoy the 15th. But I really just love, I genuinely love the decade. I
yeah,
genuinely love that cigar. The 15th, I knew that this was going to be a cigar on your list, just because I knew that it was a cigar that you enjoyed, and I had a feeling it would be in the Lincoln. I didn't know your reasoning necessarily, but like I said, that was one that if I had called, I would have called it for you, and it's cool to see that it made your list.
yeah. I had a feeling the decade was going to be on yours too. So like, I'm not discounting the decade either. Um, when we get to the end of this, there's a couple of cigars I'm shocked didn't make either of our lists, and we'll get to that too. Because I'll get to that, but yeah, because there's at least one or two cigars I'm shocked that didn't make our list.
There's one cigar that I really enjoy. It's kind of like my third favorite Rocky that I was actually bizarrely like really excited to try, and when I did, it didn't disappoint. And we'll discuss that later too. I'm actually
Yeah,
going to add it to here so I
yeah.
don't forget about it.
And then there's one highly acclaimed Rocky that I don't think belonged on Mount Rushmore, and I'll talk about that as well.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
So that's so that's my Lincoln pick, the 15th anniversary. And I'll say this, Rocky's been that's a pretty consistent cigar. Those smoke pretty consistently over the years.
Oh,
So I
absolutely.
think he's
Yeah.
maintained really good consistency with that cigar.
Oh yeah. No, it's a winner for him, man. It was a hit for him. It still is a hit for him. Um, I'd like to find out like what his numbers are like. Like what does he sell? Does he sell more 15th? He has to sell more decade, right?
I think he told me at one time, if I'm wrong, I think he told me at one time this was at one point his number one seller.
The 15th?
The 15th became at one point. Now now it's 10, now we're 10 years into the 15th, right?
Right.
So it's possible it fell off.
Sure.
Yeah, but I do see Rocky from time to time, and I do know Rocky, and Rocky's always been very candid. I can ask him anything, and I'll ask him that question. We got to get him on the show. It's that's been a little bit of a challenge too, but we had a plan B that may fall through. So the plan B may fall through, unfortunately. So because he is for all of our shows, I think I've interviewed Rocky before. I've interviewed him twice. He's a great interview, by the way. Very, very generous with his time in the interview too.
It's interesting you mentioned that this is the point that I'm going to talk about where I felt that that he really shined. I thought his appearance in the documentary Hand Rolled was really he represented himself in the industry well.
Yeah,
The way
I
he was
mean,
featured and stuff, and his points, his talking points. It he did a really great job for that documentary, and I know they edited it, obviously,
yeah.
but the they did a great job of putting that documentary is wonderful.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I agree. I have to see the final cut of it, and I just never ordered it on iTunes, and now's a good time for me to order it, I think. And now that you said that, just maybe this weekend I watched the final. But the raw cut we saw at the trade show was, no, you weren't at that trade show.
No, I missed it though. I missed the
Yeah,
premiere.
that's right. You missed it because it was your son's birthday.
Son's
So
birthday, yes.
yeah, you had to take a little priority there. Yeah. All right. Let's get to the last one, the Roosevelt pick.
So this one's interesting for both of us, right?
This one I was
Okay, so here's why this cigar makes the Mount Rushmore for me. So Teddy Roosevelt isn't. He's Lincoln. For I actually have a favorite president. I have a few, and and I actually love all four presidents on Mount Rushmore. They're some of my favorite people in American history and in history in general. But Teddy Roosevelt is my favorite president.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, just an unbelievable character in history. His story, his journey is straight out of, folklore. This is a man who couldn't walk as a child, and he was shot in the chest and gave a speech, like, for 6 hours while he was bleeding. Like, I mean, this person in our nation's history is beloved, revered in today's history of him, but at the time, contextually, he was just so out of place. There, he was during the right time in history. It was during the imperialism of the world, right? Where colonialism was still a big thing. Major European countries had stakes in Asia and Southeast Asia and Africa and all over the planet. The sun never set on the British Empire. That whole bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, Teddy served in the Spanish American War. He recruited his entire regiment out of a bar in San Antonio, Texas. I mean, God, the guy is just rich with story. But he was not a man without flaws, and he was not a man without mistakes. He made many mistakes in his life, right?
Right.
And even out of the ashes of his mistakes, he ended up being great, right? But he was different. Like, if you look at all four presidents on Mount Rushmore, like, three of them seem very obvious, right? When we talk about in history, we talk about the four presidents that are on Mount Rushmore. Three are fairly obvious, right? Washington, right, the very first president, Jefferson, who penned arguably the greatest document in American history, and along with what he did, in helping found this country and everything, and the shape of it took in its early history, and Lincoln, who was president during its most divisive time. I mean, three very obvious picks. Roosevelt doesn't necessarily fit that mold, right? Yep. Like, as revered as he is in history and everything, like, but it's kind of like, well, who else would we put up there, right? Who else is deserving? And you could, people were like, well, FDR, well, JFK, well,
Reagan,
first of
yeah.
all, Mount Rushmore was already been established, so sorry, those guys are out. So the reason I picked this particular cigar as a Roosevelt cigar, this is my second favorite Rocky Patel cigar. And this was Rocky really bucking the trend. We talked about his branding, right? And his packaging. He has this wonderful seal, right? The RP seal that's on all his brands, all his cigars, somewhere in the labeling, somewhere in the boxing, somewhere in the packaging and stuff. And up until this point, when the cigar was released, the Rocky Patel cigars had a look to them, right? That was very consistent. Well, this cigar completely bucked all that trend. The branding was completely different. The RP was very minimalized for the first time. In his branding, well, now I'm smoking a number 6 where it's very small. It's on the footband. The ALR number 2, it's very small as well. But up until this point, he had prominently put his seal on all of his cigars in one way, shape, or another. But this cigar was different. And this cigar is one that you're about to smoke, or maybe you've lit up.
Yep, I am. It's my next smoke.
Which is the Rocky Patel Super Ligero.
Here we go.
And
I love the packaging on this, so yeah.
I love the cigar.
This has to go on the unsolved mysteries list, right? Like, along with the EP Carrillo Cardinal. Like, how did this cigar not make it?
Branding.
Why is this cigar? Is it branding? Yeah. How this was? But everyone I know who smoked the cigar, this is they liked. I mean, I didn't put it on my Mount Rushmore because it was discontinued, and that was the only reason why I didn't make it. Because it is a fantastic cigar. I agree with this pick.
It is very good. It's my second
It's the
favorite.
Maverick. It's a Maverick type of cigar in the
Exactly.
portfolio. Exactly. Yeah. I
It
agree
fits
with
the Roosevelt mold. It's perfect. So right after the Lincoln pick of the decade,
it.
this was
Do you
my.
do you want a Super Lajero baseball cap?
Do I want one?
I have extras. I have
Oh,
some.
sure. Why not? I'm
Yeah,
always.
I'll get you one of those. Yeah, I found I had it because we were doing some. They were sponsored Stogie Geeks, and we were giving away them, and I found a few extras a couple weeks ago. So yeah, I just have them.
Awesome.
Yep, yep. Yes,
I think the cigar is great. It fits Roosevelt to a T, and for that reason, the way it bucked the trend, and you could consider it a mistake. You
yeah.
consider it you know a a speed bump, whatever you want to call it. But the truth of the matter is, it's still great, and that's what Roosevelt is.
Yeah.
Roosevelt was during this a weird time in world history. He fit at that time, and he was a maverick, and that's what this cigar is.
Rocky Nish, Nimish, if you're listening, please
Bring it
bring this
back.
cigar back.
Bring it back.
Please find someone. I mean, just find it. Would CI take it or something? Please bring this cigar back. It's a fantastic blend.
Make it a burn store only exclusive or something, man.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree. I love the pick. With it.
So
All
your
right,
last pick, Coop.
all
Let's
right.
hear it.
Again, I went Maverick. All right, so I kind of went with Roosevelt pick. I went a little bit of a bucking the trend a bit, and I went with you mentioned how Roosevelt had some of the struggles, right? And this cigar not necessarily has struggled early on, but maybe struggling in the future. And that's the Java Latte. Okay, so Java, really important brand to Rocky Patel. In the flavors, it's Rocky Patel, and he's done very well with the Java brand, right? There's no
Hmm.
Java Red was a hell of a cigar, by the way. I put latte because it was one of the originals and it's a staple, and I enjoy it. But flavored tobaccos is now in a battle, right? So much like Roosevelt had his health challenges and all that. I'm looking at this as in a battle, but Maverick cigar, important cigar in the history of the Rocky Patel. I think Java needs to be represented on Mount Rushmore for the importance of that brand to that company. So a little bit of a surprise was me putting, but I did put a flavored one. Remember I put acid on Drew Estate as well.
Right.
So but I'm a fan of this cigar. I'll tell you that I like the latte and the red. I wasn't a huge fan of the mint, and the Maduro was okay, but
The mint just God, you can't keep that cigar in stock though if you're a retailer.
you there's a guy, Big Scott, who's Big Scott Cunez. He's one of our fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
He loves that cigar. He loved that cigar to mint. I'm like, I can't smoke this, Scott. I'm like, but people did like. I think they're renaming it to green, by the way. Now, I think they're taking the flavor off that.
That's smart.
Yeah, but yeah. So I'm putting the Java Latte as my Roosevelt. So recapping our Mount Rushmores, which were very different, and we're gonna get to the cigars that were left off, and we have some honorable mentions. I guess we did do honorable mentions, both of us this time, but they're not on Mount Rushmore. You have as your Washington the Edge Carajo, your Jefferson the Vintage 1992 Sumatra, your Lincoln the Decade, and your Roosevelt the Super Lajero. 4 great cigars. I had my Washington the Rocky Patel 50. My Jefferson, the Rocky Patel Unico Edition, my Lincoln, the Rocky Patel 15s, and my Roosevelt, the Java Latte. So we had a couple that didn't make the pick, and I have you have 2, and I have 2.
I added a third one as a more of a discussion point, but
Okay,
yeah.
I want to get to that third one too because that's another one I think that is interesting. So let's go. Let's start with your honorables.
So there were a couple cigars that I just are worth mentioning. I also had the Java in consideration.
Yeah, it's hard not to ignore that. Again, looking at the portfolio.
Now I did just put the Java in the notes, but the Java Mint was actually my pick if you wanted to ask, just because it's a staple, man, and it flies
Look,
up the
it
shelf.
is. I didn't like it, but again, I can't argue. Big Scott, when he worked retail, sold a lot of those cigars.
and for that for the exact same reason you mentioned, its importance in the portfolio, its
Yeah.
importance in Rocky's history. It's one of those cigars. The other cigar that I chose initially before I put my third one, which I'll leave that for a point after you mention your two honorable mentions, was the Sungrown. The Rocky Patel Sungrown is a cigar that has performed really well
The
over
original
history.
Sun-Grown.
The original Sungrown, not
Right.
the Maduro, the original Sungrown. It's performed really well. It's gone through a rebranding, and it still performs really well, and it's a cigar that Rocky Patel fans adore. And for that reason, it had to be in consideration. It didn't make my Mount Rushmore just because I just thought my four were just better picks, frankly. So, what were yours?
Okay. Limited cigar. The Rocky Patel 26.
Good call.
Yeah. That's the first time that came out was I thought it was great. And that stands for his birthday is February 26th. So that cigar limited one. I thought it made the coupe list. I think it was 2012 or 13. It made it. So it's been on the coupe list. Great cigar. Again, more of a limited release that we see as far as that goes. But one that I've always enjoyed. I thought it was a little short of making Mount Rushmore because of the limited availability, but just it was hard to bump one of the other four off with that. Now this other one, and Aaron Nielsen mentioned this cigar, and very close with this one making it as well, the Royale.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier. The Royale is look. I agree. The Royale is now we're getting into who makes the cut here, and certainly if you want you can make an argument. You may say, hey, why was Unica over the Royale? I mean, it came down to a personal one. We're splitting hairs there, but Royale actually was another one of those cigars well received by a lot of people. I know Stogie Santa even liked that cigar. Did well, got some ratings, got some high ratings for them. Made a top 10 in aficionados. So you can't argue about the Royale. It's a fantastic cigar.
Oh, absolutely. It's a cigar that I enjoy, and I think what this exercise has proved, Coop, is that like Rocky Patel cigars are controversial, right? They're very polarizing. I think we can agree on that, right? Would you call them polarizing?
He's polarized because he had some misses, I think, is what's happened.
Yeah,
A lot of those brands were misses, yeah.
But I think he's polarizing in the sense because his portfolio is so vast. And I think that's his strength, and I think that's also not necessarily a weakness, but I think that's one of his what his naysayers would also put is that there's the portfolio is so vast and he doesn't really truly have an identity. But I think that's a strong point, because I think if you took labels off and you took personal opinion aside, there are cigars in his portfolio. Cigars, not a cigar. There are cigars in his portfolio that are for everybody and are enjoyable and are very good. Like I said, I genuinely love the Decade. Like I will seek out, I will smoke that cigar.
I mean, again, Royale, even though it didn't make it, you know what? I'll go reach and buy a few Royales from time to time. And Aaron, just the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame show was Primetime Jukebox #1. If you want to check that one out, just a question in there. So yeah, I agree. He's done some experimental stuff from time to time. I think a good example of the experimental stuff is I think the Super Ligero is actually a good example of that, right? A little bit of very different cigar in there. Definitely a bolder cigar than what we've seen. So certainly the Cameroon I would put in there as well, the vintage Cameroon, which again that was another one that could have made the list. You had one more though, right? You had one more you wanted to talk about.
So this is a cigar, and there's two of them actually, right?
There actually was a third that was very. I'll talk about what the third was. Yeah.
So this cigar was a cigar that I really was excited to try. In fact, this was before I attended the trade show. It was released a couple years prior before I attended my first trade show. And I actually asked my general manager Tracy Spence to actually bring me back one because I really wanted to try it. I said I didn't care which one. I was just, for some reason, I was drawn to it, probably because of my affinity and love for history. But the Prohibition, he originally came out with two jars, right? Broadleaf and San Andreas. What was the third one, Coop?
Connecticut shade. There was a Connecticut shade for a while.
There was. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. They released it in 2016. But the brand's gone. The Prohibition's gone from all I understand.
And see, I think that's sad. They were both, the Broadleaf and the San Andreas were both tremendous smokes.
Yeah,
Loved them.
I
Absolutely love them.
no, I agree. I agree. They were good cigars. I love the packaging. They had the loose tobacco in the mason jar. I still have the jars up in my room upstairs, my cigar room upstairs.
Nice.
I'll never give those up. They were decent humidors. I don't want to say they were the best things to store your cigars in. I would say use it for short. They're not like the Robert Holt humid jars, which are much better, but you could store some stuff in there and get some short term storage in those jars for about 90 days, I'd say. Yeah. So
So an interesting tidbit about the cigar that I'm smoking right now.
Uh-huh.
So I finished my number 6. I lit up the ALR, the age limited and rare number 2, the second edition. So let me permit me to read the script from the footband, the very elaborate footband that covers the majority of the cigar.
Okay.
The age limited and rare second edition. In 2016, Rocky blended a cigar featuring a San Andreas wrapper, deciding that the blend would develop even further with age. Is it possible that this is a rendition of the Prohibition San Andreas?
Maybe it's box press though, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, that's the. It could be. It could be that he had a box press version of that. That's a very possible. That's a very real possibility. I was trying to map what it was too. That's an interesting point. But again, Rocky's got a lot of stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm sure 2016 was the Prohibitions came out 15. I remember when the Prohibitions are 15. I could tell you that. That I'm confident saying, but it's possible that he was working on a box press and you put it away.
Indeed.
I want to mention another San Andreas Maduro. I believe. Well, no, it's not. Is it San Andreas Maduro? Let me check this. Bear with me.
How's that Super Ligero smoking?
Oh, it's great.
So jealous right now.
Yeah, this is a cigar. That it's no, it's not. It's broadleaf. Scratch what I said. But I want to mention this cigar. This was the high. What? Okay, let me ask you a question. What is the highest placed Rocky Patel cigar on the cigar aficionado list in history? What cigar placed the highest, and what was that position?
It's not the ALR, the one that just recently got.
No, it's not it's not the ALR.
It's not the 15th.
It's not the 15th. It's not the decade.
Well, I knew it wasn't the decade. Son of a bitch. Is it the Sun-Grown Maduro?
Yeah.
Yeah? It is
Yeah.
the Sun-Grown Maduro. Son of
And
a bitch.
and I'm not saying it's a bad cigar. I wouldn't put it on Mount Rushmore.
No.
It's not a bad cigar at all.
I wouldn't put it above I wouldn't put it above the original Sun-Grown.
Yeah, I mean you can make that argument.
Personally, yeah.
I wouldn't put it above the Prohibition, which they had a broadleaf.
True story.
Yeah. So, and I'm not knocking the Sun-Grown. It actually scored on Coop a 90, but that was a score in 2015, which today would not be a 90. So I'm going to be honest with you, we scored higher back then. So this would probably be an 87, 88 then. Probably more like an 88, if I look at it, how it would score. But not saying it's a bad cigar in 88, but not again, I wouldn't put it on it, but it was the one that was his highest placed cigar over the years.
Unbelievable. Crazy.
Aaron, you got to tell me who your dad is. He's saying his dad was inducted in 2016 to the Hall of Fame. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I got to find that out. And we did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for this year, 2020. It's because it's a new show we did.
Mm-hmm.
But we talked about it. Yeah, so the Sungrown was one that I think was definitely one. I'm not knocking the cigar, and it's no doubt Rocky was the bridesmaid that year. Cheap Trick, Rick Nielsen. Wow.
Oh my gosh,
Oh my goodness,
Terrence's son. Oh shit.
Oh my goodness. I'm like, what a band.
Oh, Cheap Trick's amazing.
I grew up with Cheap Trick.
I didn't grow up with them, but damn, Cheap Trick's awesome.
Hall of Fame all the way.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
Wow. Thanks,
man, we got some rock and roll royalty tuning into the YouTube, man. We got to do this more often.
Oh, the Budokan concert. I listened to that album. I was listening to Cheap Trick in like 1980. I mean, this is 40 years ago I'm listening to this. Wow. Wow. I'm like, I may have to talk with him offline, Aaron. Wow. That is, thank you for sharing that. Wow. It's amazing. I just went in the other thing, like I said, I think the Grand Reserve, certainly a one. I didn't have the Rocky Patel 55 in there at all.
A good our fan of the show, Sean Miles, is a big fan of the Old World Reserve, which
was the one I was gonna say.
That's a good cigar too.
I was looking at those. I was really looking at the Carajo. With that.
I think he was a fan of the Maduro, if I'm not
mistaken.
The
Maduro, you can't go wrong with either one of them. Yeah, that was one, and the special edition cigar and the Tabacusa. The Tabacusa was just too new to put on Mount Rushmore. I love the Tabacusa.
Yeah, and
just missed the Coop list actually last year. And maybe that 20th Lancero if I was gonna put, but that was a little short as well. I mean, this year I think Rocky's doing his 25th cigar.
Right.
I'm gonna make the guess that he had plans to release the 25th this year. So because it's every 5 years he's done this.
So to be completely transparent and candid, so you remember a conversation, a private conversation that we had about the Hamlet Liberation, where I was not impressed by it. Do you remember this?
Mm-hmm.
So I've since smoked a lot more of them, and that cigar is really improved. I think the Tabacusa might be something I need to revisit because I had similar feelings about it personally. That might be something I need to revisit because the Liberation definitely. In hindsight, I'm glad I revisited it because that cigar is very good too.
Yeah. I have the 25th here. I didn't light it up because it's a little milder. This is a much more milder Hamlet cigar. And I like what he's doing with the Hamlet brand. By the way, I like having that separate brand as well. Maybe they're not my favorite Rockies, but the Tabacaro had some good sizes. The original Maduro they did.
It's something that I wanted to note about Rocky Patel in general was his partnership with two unique people in sports history.
Oh yeah,
two very controversial people.
There's actually a third. I'll tell you that one in a minute.
But there's a Ray Lewis cigar, right, and a Gary Sheffield. The 500 cigar that commemorating the 500 home runs. Well, Sheffield has the stain of Balco and the Mitchell report and stuff on his resume. Unfortunately, I watched Gary Sheffield play in minor leagues. I watched Gary Sheffield play shortstop for the El Paso Diablos in the late 80s.
Right.
Really cool story about that. But the Ray Lewis, Gary Sheffield, two very controversial people in sports history, and he didn't shy away from partnering with them, which was really cool.
No, and I'll say this, as far as the Gary Sheffield cigar goes, there were two. They redid it. They redid the first one. The second one was the box press, was much better. I interviewed Gary Sheffield at the IPCPR.
Still jealous of that.
He couldn't have been nicer. I couldn't have had a worse setup. Like we didn't have this was before I was doing podcasts. He gave me his time. And the funny thing is, I actually saw him at the Great Smoke a few years later, and I went up to him and said, "Hey," and I love Gary Sheffield, by the way. And I'm a fan of his. I became more of a fan after meeting him and interviewing him. So I went up there and said, "Hey, Mr. Sheffield, I don't know if you remember," and he remembered my name. He called me Coop. So I was like, it was one of those. I had a little bit of that starstruck moment there. But I love Gary on the post game and the pregame shows he was doing on TBS.
Mm-hmm.
And he always have his cigar. They'd smoke his cigars there too. So yeah, and the Ray Lewis one again, I think that wasn't a bad cigar either. Tough, controversial ones. You're not going to sell that cigar in New England, right? You're not going to sell that cigar in Pittsburgh, right?
Right.
I bet they sell it at the Rocky store though in Pittsburgh. But there was a third. Do you know who the third was?
No, I don't. I can't recall. That's why I've been thinking about it since you said it.
All right. So this was not a national release though. And Cigar Craig, right?
Of course.
Okay. So Cigar Craig actually was the one who turned me on about this project. They did a regional release in the Philadelphia area for one of the most iconic sports figures in Philadelphia history.
Vince Papale?
No, no, Bernie Parent, goaltender for the Philadelphia Flyers championship.
Okay.
And that was the best of the three. They were box press cigars. They had these little petite Robusto box presses was one of the sizes. They were freaking amazing. They were amazing cigars.
Nice.
That's a tougher line to take national though, because Bernie Parent in Philadelphia, Bernie Parent would be a Mount Rushmore sports candidate, but not national.
Right.
But
Right.
again, he's the goaltender for those Flyers. He's still a part of the city. People love him. He was actually very involved with the project, especially doing events with it. I didn't get a chance. I think Craig Vanderslice interviewed him. If you go on the Cigar Craig, I'm pretty sure he's got an interview with Bernie. So that's why I want to mention Craig as well. Friend of the show, friend of mine personally. I never met Bernie though, but I met, but Craig, and he turned me on to that cigar. And I think it was the best of the sports cigars that he did of the three. I think you would like it too.
Terrific.
I don't know if they still distribute it in the area, but this was about, I want to say 2012 or 13. No, it was the Sheffield came out in 12. Yeah, it was late 12, 13. It was the Bernie cigar was in between the Sheffield and the Ray Lewis.
Okay.
Yeah, the Bernie cigar was in between those two. And Bernie likes the ladies too. So, kind of, if you don't know what Bernie looks like too, he had a little bit of that. Mentioned the late Kenny Rogers. A little bit of, he had that white beard and stuff like that. But a hell of a goaltender for the Flyers, man. So. All right. So, anything else we want to talk about Rocky?
No, I'm good. Yeah, no,
all right.
Great segment, great show, great Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. So I want to just thank again our folks who are hanging in there in YouTube. I know we're not on Facebook. Hopefully, you got away from the Facebook politics and the infectious disease statistics. But maybe people are enjoying them and whatever. But let's do both runs of the commercials here. Do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay. I'm gonna move away for like 1 minute. So.
No problem. With just over a decade of ownership, Michael's Tobacco has become the premier tobacconist for Dallas-Fort Worth metro area and cigar patrons the world over. With 2 convenient locations in Euless, just a quick jaunt from the DFW airport, and Keller, Texas, Michael stands as a beacon for the Texas cigar retailers. Michael's was the very first cigar lounge in the state of Texas to add a full bar to its list of ever-growing accommodations. Proprietor Mike Peacock is a former IPCPR, now PCA board member, and has now made Michael's a family affair by having his son, Bob, join the ownership force. Under general manager and master storyteller Tracy Spence's leadership at Michael's, his self-proclaimed greatest accomplishment has been assembling, quote, the greatest team in the cigar retail business, unquote, as well as build some of the finest relationships with the industry's most respected individuals. Inventory director Jason Fields handles and maintains 2 of the area's proudest humidors containing premium cigars for everyone, from the everyday smoker to the most ardent collector of rare puros. Under Mike, Bob, Tracy, and Jason's example, they've enlisted a staff of Kevin, Austin, myself, Joe, Salas, Brandon, and now Kyle that collectively boast now 100 years of combined industry experience. Together, they have brought together a true and blessed mainstay for their respective communities. Whether you're celebrating an anniversary, birthday, hole in one, or just a desire to relax, Michael's Tobacco will have the perfect beverage waiting for you, cigar waiting for you with an exquisite beverage pairing and lively conversation. Visit michaelstobacco.com for more details and a calendar of upcoming events. Michael's Tobacco, not just a cigar shop, but the perfect blend of Texas hospitality and the days of yore.
And I want to mention a Lucioni cigar, deep in flavor, deep in your mind. We are not industry standard. A Lucioni cigar. All right, this is Primetime Special Edition number 70. We are on the backup streaming setup on YouTube tonight. We are not on Facebook thanks to problems with Facebook, it looks like, and Zoom, which is our streaming platform. And maybe these problems, you know, are when we talked about it at the start of the show. They, you know, coronavirus. A lot of people are streaming right now, and you know, that's something right now that is affecting everyone in their lives. You know, Bear, before we kind of get into coronavirus here, right? And we're not going to talk about statistics or anything like that. You're a history guy, okay? You're a historian on the team here.
Sure.
Where right now do you put the state of this? What is this? What has happened? Let's take the cigar industry out of this for a little while. Just this coronavirus threat. Where is this right now ranking in the history of the country and maybe of the world that you're seeing?
Well, Coop, I think it's unprecedented. You know what we've seen worldwide, the effect that this has made. Like not since the influenza epidemic of the early 1900s have we seen a health risk a health risk affect the fabric of society the way that this has done it. I mean, we're talking about so many different things that have been disrupted. The economy, which was doing incredibly well, has been stalled. Events that are heralded in the fabric, at least in an American context, but even in a worldwide context that I'll mention in a second. I mean, think about events that happen and are a consistent part and are marquee events that mark the fabric of sports. March Madness, the Kentucky Derby, the Masters, all postponed. In the case of March Madness, completely canceled.
Yeah.
School districts are closing, not just for a couple of weeks, for the year. Education has been put on hold. The Tokyo Olympics announced today, the IOC announced today that the Tokyo Olympics will now be postponed until 2021. The Tokyo Olympics, if you remember, the Tokyo Olympics in 1940 went on. Wartime.
Yeah.
The Olympics have been postponed. Coop, I've never seen anything like this. You've never seen anything like this. I hope we never see anything like this again.
No, yeah, this is gonna. I think in historical context, this will. We can argue the Spanish flu, but it was worse, right? But I don't think this has changed our society so much.
Think about verbiage that has been created in 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, you never heard the term social distancing
or shelter in place.
Shelter in place. I mean,
it's mind-boggling. I mean, we were our last show we did with Nestor Miranda and Jason Wood 3 weeks ago. How has the world changed so much, and how has the cigar industry, which we're going to get into, changed so much?
It's completely the world is disrupted right now.
Yeah.
It's on hold.
Yeah.
This is by far the most significant in my lifetime. As it stands right now, there's only been one event in the course of history that, in my opinion, is greater in changing the fabric of world history, even though it was an event that happened on U.S. soil, and that was 9/11.
Yeah, we would agree with that. It changed our country, but we
And
healed.
it changed the world in a lot of ways too. It
There
changed
was
this country. It changed the world.
it changed
This
the way.
is
Yeah, it changed a lot of aspects of our life after that. No question. Uh, this this is. I mean, we're shutting down economies. We have a shelter in place now in the city of Charlotte. I don't live in Charlotte, but I'm like 5 miles from the border, right?
yeah.
So, city
Essential
limits.
services. Essential services is another term.
Yeah, essential charger. Um, I'm imagine if we didn't have an option of virtual working, what would be the case here?
Oh my gosh.
Um, thank goodness. So I'm pissed that the Zoom thing worked or didn't work. I'm assuming there was something going on, um, technically related to that. And they better fix it. But, but that's maybe
I'll save.
but, yeah. But there's bigger problems here. I totally get that too. Um, so, and and Bear, I'm not going to debate on. I don't want to get into the political debate here. But what I will say, this is unfortunately, this is 9/11 brought our country together. This is not. This is this divide is very scary right now, and I'm worried about my kids and my grandkids going forward. The divide I'm seeing in this country.
Yes. Yeah, it is very scary. A few days ago was my wife and I's 10th anniversary. Not a way I envisioned my 10th anniversary being celebrated in a lot of different ways. The way that it was celebrated was not it. Not even close. We got takeout from a local restaurant that we love,
Yeah.
and it was actually gifted to us by a colleague of mine,
Right.
which was wonderful. And we celebrated with my two boys, um, and it was nice. It was quaint. It was good, but it wasn't how I certainly envisioned it. It wasn't how my wife certainly envisioned it. And there's such a on that post on my 10th anniversary post on Facebook. You can go back and see it. I started off romanticizing in the wake of tragedy, even with COVID-19, the way it stands and how divisive it is. I still hold fast to this um, virtue in people, that in times of tragedy and in times of great distress, the humanity of people does rise. Um, People are foregoing competition and helping each other out. My sister, who is you don't know the term that she is, a position in the museum. A lot of people don't know what a registrar is, but for lack of a better term, she's a curator at a museum called the Whitney in New
Mhm.
York. It's a very prestigious museum. She worked at the DMA for years, actually, Dallas Museum of Art, and she worked at the Met in New York.
Oh wow.
So yeah, brilliant. She's awesome. She got all the good genes. But her museum and the Dallas Museum of Art have followed suit with this. Museum curating takes a lot of care. They take a lot of care of artifacts. And so with that, you have really delicate tools. And, we're talking about masks and gloves and hypoallergenic tools to make sure that you don't damage these priceless artifacts, right? And priceless pieces of art. Well, these museums are donating these materials to hospitals because they're in need of this stuff and don't have it readily available. So it's examples like those, and it's examples of like what we're seeing in commerce and neighbors helping out. I can't tell you how many posts I've seen on like Nextdoor and my local Facebook saying, hey, if there are any elderly out there that are having trouble getting groceries, I will certainly do a grocery run for them and things like that. Those acts of kindness are, you know, they while they certainly existed 2 weeks ago, they they're obviously more prominently featured today, you know, and in a lot of ways, it's good to see this country come together. It's good to see communities come together. But to your point, Coop, you're absolutely right. This time before 2 weeks ago, and we've commented many times on this show, as much as we stay away from politics, there's a divide in this country that is just rancid. It doesn't matter what side of the line you're on. It doesn't. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. It is a rancid divide in this country that is, it's toxic.
Yeah.
And it's extreme, and there's no compromise. There's no open channel for debate or discussion. It is either you're with us or against us. And it is, so we talk about Rocky being polarizing a second ago. This is nothing compared to the American political fabric in our society now. And today, the way that the COVID-19 crisis is facing this country is still causing such division.
Yeah.
In our leadership, this is a time to unite, and we are not seeing that, and it is tragic beyond all imagination.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I have a personal spin with this right now, as someone who did suffer almost fatally from an infectious disease. So, I've taken, and I say this, there's no such thing as the vulnerable, because I was in good health before I got my blood infection, right? And at least that was treatable with antibiotics, right? This isn't, right? But I have not left my house since Wednesday. When I say I've gone outside my driveway and stuff to get some fresh air, but I have not left this house since Wednesday of last week. So, and that's just, so it's changing my life, a lot. Normally what I would do, is, the days I work from home, when I wrap up, I go down to the cigar shop or the Tailored Smoke or the Tinderbox, and I go have a smoke from that 4 to 7 hour, and then I come home for dinner. That's been my routine for 10 years. That's kind of when I go to the cigar shop. The cigar shops, that's changed, and we still have some shops open, but that's changing as well. So my life's definitely. I have 3 of my boys at home right now.
Yeah, my life has been disrupted as well. I was I was one of the only people working in the office last week. Now my office has been shut down for my day job, but
Yep.
Michael's Tobacco has been shut down.
Yeah, I messaged you. I'm like, wow. I said they're shut. And then apparently it was a county order they did.
Right. It was a county order, and then actually at midnight tonight, here in just about 30 minutes, there is a shelter-in-place order, which really hasn't really changed from the recommendation from Saturday.
Mhm.
You can still go outside, you can still get exercise, you can still get fresh air, you can still go to these essential services, right? You can go to the grocery store, you can go to a restaurant to get takeout and things like that. But other than that, if you're in a car, a policeman can stop you, and you have to produce papers if you're commuting to work. My wife is a zookeeper, and while that doesn't seem like essential services,
Yeah, take care of animals, right?
yeah, you got to take care of animals. You can't let them die. So she's got papers, Coop, in 2020.
Right.
Now, this is certainly not to the extent uh, of the savagery and barbarism that took place during this time, but papers, when I hear papers and you have to produce papers on demand, it sounds eerily similar.
I have, yeah, and this is something I could debate. Are we really using law enforcement for this piece, or should we be
Well,
using law enforcement for what happened in Florida with a crowd of, that's where I kind of go with the
in
crowd.
Tarrant County, where I reside,
Yeah.
the mayor of Fort Worth, I don't reside in Fort Worth, but the mayor of Fort Worth, Betsy Price, has said that no one will be arrested.
Yeah. But what are they going to
They'll be
fine them?
they'll be sent home.
Yeah.
Um, but if a law enforcement official asks you, you have to produce papers. It's very eerily similar to Nazi Germany, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, we've never seen anything like that.
Hmm.
Like I said, when you're right, we've never seen. I mean, leaving your house and having to have permission to leave your house.
I
Um,
mean, no one's going to concentration camps or anything like that. I mean, it's not, again, it's not compared, it's not on that comparison level. I'm not trying to
right,
say that.
right. I mean,
But contextually in history, to be able to move
yeah.
from one place to another, you had to have papers. I mean, to go down the street, to travel. You know, we saw our good friend Roma Craft's son Skip Martin is coming back to the United States. He's coming back to
He,
Austin.
he talked a little on the show last night about that. Aaron's Herf last night. Um, I was surprised. I'll be point blank. I was tired at that point. He has not canceled his, I guess, event. I mean, he was talking about he has a backup plan for Labor Day. I'm like, why wouldn't you just put the thing at Labor Day? Don't deal. At this point, I don't. I hate to see him have to reschedule it, but make it easy. I think, but there's a little bit of that in me. You always try to get life on, so I kind of understand that part too.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, I'm the guy bear like when there's I hear and I made fun of how they shut schools with flurries, right? Because I hear the word life-threatening conditions. Like, and I've heard that we don't want life-threatening conditions because there's one patch of ice that the bus may have to drive over, right? I mean, and it's pathetic what they do here with that, right? This is a different story. So, it's a divisive story, unfortunately. There's, my thing is, I wish the people on Facebook would just stop. I mean, you're not going to convince one side or the other side, and
It's inundating, man.
it's
It's just
inundating. And then the statistics. Yeah, that's why I've been making fun of that. But my God, it's again, I'll just tell you from a personal experience, you do not want infectious disease, right? And there was one that I'll pick on Terrence here. Terrence, I think, put some articles up saying, well, it's not really the infection that kill people in Italy, it was all the other stuff. No shit, right? Because again, when I got the blood infection, the fear is that went to my heart, and it would lead to endocarditis, right? Which is a heart infection, which is really bad, right? So that was my life threatening piece that I had in there, and I had a condition in my heart. I have a murmur, which again not life threatening, but it leaks a little blood in there. It makes the bacteria easily flow there. They told me I was the luckiest person alive, and the antibiotics were able to prevent it. So I'm just kind of being again. I'm you. I tell my friends who are on the other side of the fence, I'm not the person you want to cry to here, because I have a personal situation with that. And I don't want to see anyone go through what I went through. And oh, by the way, there's no antibiotics to cure this. So,
yeah.
and now I do know someone who lost her father because of coronavirus. So I do have a indirect connection with someone right now. So it's already kind of affected this. And he was elderly and older, but still, it will hits home a little more.
Yeah, I mean, there was let's see, there was I just saw there was a tweet earlier about someone who, yeah, Terrence McNally, the playwright, 81,
Yep.
dead from coronavirus complications.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know Terrence or anything like that, but
Yeah.
I mean, there's a really infamous person right there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But I think we're safe to say, yeah, this like the way I think you put it in history was kind of the answer I was expecting. I mean, um, this it's big right now.
Hmm.
Um, and again, I remember when this started to happen. Um, you had to wonder what was going to happen with the cigar industry right now. And the cigar industry is very different than when you and I interviewed Nestor Miranda 3 weeks ago and Jason Wood.
Hmm.
Completely different. This and there's some serious stuff happening in the cigar industry right now. So we look at, let's talk about the retailers first. I mean, so the retailers have had a completely. Is there is it safe to say that if you had to say a percentage of retailers impacted by this in the U.S., What would your percentage be?
98.
Yeah, I had 90 because maybe some of the, but I'm being conservative. I won't argue. I think it's safe to say you have a huge number of retailers that have had their everyday portion, their everyday business disrupted, right, because of this, and at different degrees.
Brent Strandy, friend of the show, the train car, Big Spring, Texas.
Uh-huh.
If you guys know where Big Spring, Texas is, well, kudos to you because it's in the middle of nowhere.
I know I want to go
His
visit them, but they're just in the middle of nowhere.
his business has been impacted. He's had to close. He's had to not close permanently, but he's open for limited curbside and stuff like that.
I
That's
told you.
gonna change here in the next few days. I guarantee it. The way this is going.
Has curbside? Let me ask a question about curbside. Has it really been something that people have used in cigars? I haven't seen people take advantage of it in North Carolina.
My only shift during this whole deal was actually half a shift. I took Friday off for my 10th anniversary, and so I was scheduled to work Saturday. I walked in for my Saturday evening shift, and we closed it. We closed an hour later,
right,
because of the order. So I didn't get to see it firsthand.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see it. I mean, I'm not. It's not doing anything for me personally. There's an irony with the whole thing. 300 hands touch this stuff already. So, like, I don't know,
Right.
Yeah. So, but otherwise, yeah, I get it. I think I give the retailers a lot of credit. They have adopted to they've had to adapt, but it's a huge problem right now. Lounges are not there are still people smoking in lounges though. I was doing it early last week and I stopped, and I hated doing that.
Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to find a community that you're still able to do that in right now.
Yep.
I had a conversation in my interview on Sunday with Abe Dababna of Smoke Inn, and he was saying that the most daunting part of this isn't the closures. It isn't the halting of business even. He's a smart retailer, he's a smart businessman, and he was as he was saying, and that's I don't think that's up for dispute. But any good retailer, any smart business person who's worth the salt can persevere through times of strife. The problem that this is presenting to cigar retailers is the uncertainty. We don't know when this is going to end. So you don't know if it's 2 weeks, you don't know if it's 4 weeks, you don't know if it's 8 weeks. If you had a defined line, you could make it work. You could figure something out because you have, okay, this is what I have to work with. This is what I have to do to survive, to persevere during this time. But they don't, it's an undefined time.
I agree. I totally agree with you. Yeah, no, so yeah, that's one part, and we'll get to PCA in a bit, but let's kind of switch it over to the manufacturer piece right now. What have you? I mean, so we saw Honduras was the first to go down, shutting the factories.
George Rico got his last shipment out. That was, a few days ago.
Have they stopped shipments? Last I heard, they were allowing it, but I don't know if they did stop it.
They stopped it out of Honduras. George got his last shipment a few days ago.
Okay, interesting. This is where I think and I got into trouble with Skip with this, but I get it. I think there was some really poor communications to the retailers. I think you have to tell that there's impacts going on. Maybe you won't have back orders yet, but one retailer was vehemently mad that he read in Cigar Aficionado that Davidoff and Altadis were closing. Vehement, like, why am I reading this from Cigar Aficionado? Like, why I spend a ton of money, and I'm going through hell right now. No one can tell me this. But as it was pointed out to me, and I always try to look at both sides of the equation, maybe the factories are going through some serious stuff too on there, and obviously they're having to deal with workers right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally get the challenges there too. So I want to be sensitive to that. But now the Dominican is shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And from talking to Skip, he's getting ready to kind of do some shutting down in Nicaragua.
He shut
And,
down Nicaswenia.
yeah. So, and more will follow. So, because I think, so now you're going to have some real questions on the horizon about supply of cigars. I don't think we're going to run out of cigars. I don't think that's going to happen. But, could there be shortages? Does this impact the release schedules for the year? There's a lot.
Certainly.
There's a lot to be considered right now.
Certainly, it'll impact the release schedule. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. What about the PCA show?
Okay, so let me give I'll give you my opinion on that. To start, I wrote an article shortly. This was a couple weeks ago, and the PCA had come out and said, "Hey, we're having the show." And I said, "Bravo to the PCA." This was around the 11th to 12th, right? That good job. No need to panic yet. You got some time. So I thought that was a good thing. But the PCA's got the worst luck in the world, because what happened that day is then the basketball season gets canceled, the hockey season follows, the NCAA tournament follows. They can't get a break, right? They really can't, right? But still, we weren't in. But then when we started seeing the retailers get hit, and now the manufacturers get hit, now it's a different story.
Right.
And I don't think it's this is my opinion. I'll let you kind of see what yours is. This isn't a matter of, hey, this is gonna end and we can still have the show in July. There's damage that's been done to the industry, that this is the wrong time to have the show. It just is, and you and I are looking forward to going to the show a lot.
Sure.
It's gonna be a huge hit to Cigar Coop to not have PCA coverage this year if it's canceled. But I think they need to cancel it. I don't think they need to rush about it, but I think hopefully they're starting to think about it to do it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worthwhile to look at contingency plans and everything like that. But it was a point that was brought up on the HERF last night is, if they cancel before they're able to, and I mean that as their contract with the Sands, it could be detrimental to the PCA. In fact, it could mean the end of PCA.
What do you think is the end of PCA if the Sands cancels it out entirely?
If they cancel it out entirely and aren't able to get any kind of financial restitution from the Sands?
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
That's a fuck ton of money, dude.
Could we were talking, this kind of came up last night, and I think this may have been after you dropped off or left. Some people were like, okay, would the best thing be that the PCA is forced to cancel the show because Sands comes to them and says, this show absolutely needs to go on before you guys, and we'll make you good on money.
Yeah, if the Sands can get us out of it, will let us out of the contract. We'll let the PCA out of the contract. You have to do it. You have to take it.
Yeah,
you have to take it.
Yeah. I don't think a postponement works with the PCA this year.
No.
I don't think at all I would do that.
I'll bring up something that's the last thing on everybody's mind, but is something that I've certainly thought about. This makes the tobacco business come out smelling like a rose on this,
and could be in a very strong position next year.
Mm-hmm.
So
the industry will have hopefully recovered by then. Manufacturers will have been back up to schedule and been back up to production level, hopefully by that point.
But does this give the PCA a reset to say, because they got their problems, there's no question about it, but now a chance to hit the reset button and redo this show from top to bottom?
I think so. I think it presents like, positively speaking, I think it presents a great opportunity for the PCA. They could hit this reset button. They could go smaller. They could do a lot of things. They could mend fences with the big four. Gives them an avenue to come back.
Yeah, I even go back. We interviewed Glenn a little less than 2 weeks ago, and it didn't seem like that was going to happen. Does things change now? Where does the industry come together in this a divided industry come together on this? That's a question I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I'm not optimistic on that. I have a feeling this industry can't find a way to get along. So, yeah, that's a big problem there.
100%.
Yeah, but I think the reset button is a good thing to do. Let's kind of go back, and I know it's going to come up on the Thursday show. Is there any way you see this trade show happening this year?
No.
Yeah.
They canceled the Olympics, Coop.
They
PCA
canceled
ain't happening.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly when I heard the Olympic cancellation. I said, you canceled the Olympics. I don't know how much more you can go with. And by the way, I think that was the right decision. I was saying I thought that was what was going to happen, is they were going to delay it a year. So I agree. This is not the time to have it.
Well, I think the Olympics are going to serve as a valuable example to even a small organization in terms of scale like the PCA.
Yeah.
The Olympics are going to be amazing next year.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
The Olympics are always amazing. They're going to be even more so. Another year for Tokyo to prepare.
Yeah.
For the health and safety of everyone traveling to Japan will be obviously increased, and it will, I guarantee Japan will be the cleanest country in the planet.
Yeah.
It already is pretty well maintained. Yeah. Infrastructurally speaking. But I think this is just, I think the Olympics are going to be awesome in 2021. I think it's going to be incredible. I think it's going to be a great show. I think it's going to be a great showing. You're going to have countries coming together, competing. Oh, it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, I was looking forward to doing some Olympic talk with you in a segment. Just because we'll do it next year, obviously. Because we did a little winter. I remember we did the winter stuff 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
This is like year 4 we're on. Like, as we started in 2017. Isn't this amazing? Like, I've been just very grateful for the stability we've had with our team as well. So, but yeah. So the Olympics getting canceled, I think it was the right decision. I think the NBA season's done.
Yeah.
And I think the NHL season's done.
Yes.
Baseball, I think's got some hope.
I think baseball will be played this year in 2020.
I think baseball's in the NFL, I think will be all right. Back to yeah.
There'll be a reduced schedule in baseball, though.
It will be really good. I remember the reduced schedule in 1981 was great, except they used the split season thing, which sucked. But there was some really good baseball played in August and September in that second half. With the shorter schedule, it made a much more sense of urgency, is what you saw. Mm-hmm. And injuries had a huge impact on that season because of guys were out, and it was a bigger percentage of games that they were going to lose. So we didn't mention the event schedule of the cigar industry is at a standstill right now.
Mm-hmm.
There are no cigar events going on.
Right.
I saw a couple got in before things hit the fan. But, and now everything in the cigar industry is going into October and November.
Mm-hmm.
Which is going to be an interesting time of the year. If assuming everything's back to normal. I don't know how normal we'll be back to, though.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, interesting on that. Let me see. Anything else we want to add on that?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So actually, guess what? We actually made it to the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I got notes from last week on it. We don't want that. All right. Oh no, we got one more. We got one more thing. Can we do the one more thing?
Yeah.
Okay. The V-Herfs. Like, that has become the big thing right now.
Right.
Everyone's creating, and And I was looking at it. I saw 3 types of V-Herfs out there. Okay. So let me give you the 3 types I saw.
Okay.
There's number 1 is the dojo type of V-Herf that they've been doing every day, where basically they set a room up and people can come in and smoke and chat and have fun, right? Very, very nothing more to that, right? Then there's the second herf where you're seeing a lot of cigar industry people create little shows,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where I've seen Jack Tarano now has got a daily show. Saka did something. Um, and then there's actually what we did last night, which was I think it was unique what we did last night. Aaron put on a 6-hour extravaganza, and there was no agenda going into that show. But it was broadcast as a show. It's going to be something as a show to kind of go look back on. I don't think this is a bad thing for the cigar industry, as much as I think there's too many of them. They're not all the same, so I think there's a lot of options for people to engage with the industry right now. I think this is a good thing.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very positive thing, for sure. I think it's been fun. It's been entertaining, in a lot of ways. Seeing the industry, I think this is one of the things, the industry's coming together in a lot of ways. We talked about the divisiveness of the country, but the industry is coming together in a very real way, which has really been terrific. Um, I've really loved seeing a lot of these guys put together their own shows, coming on the air, staying in touch with consumers, engaging. The content, notwithstanding, like we were talking about content the other day about it. The content notwithstanding, is not necessarily as riveting as some of.
Some of it I've told you is not riveting. I'm not gonna name names, but a lot of it wasn't riveting. Yeah, I agree. That I'm not gonna argue with, but I think the intent of it is important. Like
Yeah,
you liked one person's content more than another, but that's just a judgment thing. That's not. I'm not saying this person shouldn't be doing it at all.
yeah, no, and I think it's just. I think it's fun. I think a lot of it's fun. I think it's bringing levity. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. It was funny because it was funny because like I think you and I talked about like me doing this, right? I don't think a VHerf works for what I do. I think Aaron pulled it off great last night, by the way.
Oh,
How do you
absolutely.
have Pete Johnson on for 5 hours? Did anyone ever have Pete Johnson on for 5 hours? Aaron's got like how did and he was engaged. I mean, we had the names that came in there last night were amazing.
Yeah,
There were a lot of
absolutely.
people that we had to tell no to. I mean, that was the thing. It was unfortunate, but it was really Aaron's. But I thought it worked better with developing palettes than putting it under what I did. So because we were both talking about the idea, and I said, Aaron, just go do it. It's not, and it worked. I mean, it was the numbers were staggeringly good, but there was no advertising that was done on that or anything. It was
Hmm.
just we just talked. Well, so I think
Yeah,
overall, yeah,
it was a privilege to be a part of that.
yep. All right, do we want to hit this last daily news thing or no?
Your call, Coop.
Let's do it. Let's do it if you're okay with it.
Okay.
Unless you're tired. Okay. Did you?
Well, I am, but yeah, go ahead.
We'll wait for next time. We can wait for we because it could be a longer conversation. So let's wait till next time on it.
Okay, sounds good. I mean, we're on next week, so let's go ahead and do it then.
Yep. I don't know what we're doing next week yet, but we got to figure that one out. Because then we have I'll mention we have Justin Andrews coming on in April.
Hmm.
Justin Andrews is coming on. I want to say April 14th. Gotta look at the schedule, but he is going to be special edition number 72. So he'll be making his debut on the special edition side of the house. All right. Let's just talk schedule real quick. Why don't you go through what you got on the schedule if you know yet? Anything on your end?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, he just confirmed with me while we're on air, and so this Sunday, I'm pleased. I'm pleased to welcome in Michael Herklotz will be my guest.
A
Uh,
rare Michael Herklotz interview, by the way, guys.
yes. So our 113th take will feature Michael Herklotz. Take 114 will actually be on April 5th. will be Glenn Case of Christoph Cigars. So really
Another
excited
another
about
rare interview. Doesn't do a lot of these. Yeah.
So I'm excited about these next 2 upcoming shows. It'll be really fantastic. I do have a show booked out in May as well. The rest of the schedule will get rounded out here in the coming weeks, but I do at the end of May on the 24th. Actually, I will have Indiana Ortez on my show, so that'll be a really exciting interview. I know she was a great interview for you, and I'm so excited to talk to her. It's going to be awesome.
I enjoyed that interview immensely. So is she the first solo female guest you've had on? You've had female. You broke the what? No.
Kim Jackson.
That's right. Yes.
Cigar band art. Yeah.
Who did that beautiful McAuliffe?
Yes, the beautiful McAuliffe portrait. Yes.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
She's an incredible talent. Yeah, she was my first solo female guest.
Yep.
I've had several females on the show, but Indiana will be my second solo female.
Oh, awesome. Let me go through the Coop side, the primetime side, I should say. Media panel show on Thursday. We're gonna have David Jones, Ben Lee, and Seth on. So we get David back. David's from Leaf Enthusiast. Ben's from Stogie Review. So we try to mix it up there. We're gonna be looking back at the decade of the 2010s. So we'll be going through a lot of stuff with that. Kind of change it up a bit, like we did tonight, And I'm sure we're gonna hit on some coronavirus stuff in that segment as well. And I'm sure we're gonna have a fast food segment on there. So that is episode 131. Next week Bear and I will be on the air. Topic to be determined, possibly guest to be determined. Because we had that booked originally for the backup baseball show.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be 71. And then we just booked Luciano from Ace Prime on Primetime episode.
Yes.
Yeah. For episode 132 on the 2nd. And the following week is episode 133. We're dubbing it the 3-year anniversary show for Primetime. And Pete Johnson is going to come on there.
Wonderful.
So yeah, he's been doing the herf stuff. Now we're gonna have him do the tough stuff. And of course, he did episode 100. God, I hope that we don't have the same problem.
I was gonna say, man, knock on wood, you don't have the same technical issues that I do.
Yeah.
But it was a memorable show, man. It was a lot of fun. I mean,
yeah. And then on the 14th primetime episode, primetime special edition 72 will be Justin Andrews.
Awesome. I just a quick special nod to Pete. If you guys haven't heard the LL Fumar Takes 100th take with Pete Johnson, go back. It's a dumpster fire of technical glitch, but it's truly memorable.
Pete ended up hosting the show for a while.
I cannot thank Pete enough for just really stepping in clutch, man. My internet went out mid-show. And Coop, I looped you in on this. You saved me so graciously that night. I called into my own show.
Yeah, Dare had to actually call in. Pete ended up being the host of the show.
Yes.
Yes.
It was unbelievable. Internet came back at the tail end, so I was able to get back in that way. But most of the interview, or half of the interview rather, is me on the phone.
Yeah.
And Pete hosting, unbelievable job. While we were getting reconnected, Pete started taking questions from the audience, started answering them. It was just awesome.
I said you'd look back at it and say it was awesome. That's what I kind of said. When you look back at that and how that show pulled off, it was a lot of fun, and not a lot of fun, but it
was. No, it was.
It's a classic lemonade out of lemon story.
Yes. Yeah. As Hector Alfonso is fond of saying, making chicken salad out of some chicken shit for sure.
Yeah. All right. But anyway, that's going to wrap up Primetime Special Edition into the annals of history for this Tuesday, March 24th, now March 25, 2020 on the East Coast. We'll see everybody on Thursday night and next week. Have a great night, everybody.
We'll see you next time.